Too close to call?
Way too close to call.
There you go. My thanks to Annunciata Rees-Mogg, also the brilliant Kerry Marks and Josh Howie. Do keep it GB News, because we'll bring you the latest on this attempt on Donald Trump's life at breakfast at 6 a.m, so you won't want to miss it. Thank you to my team for working so hard this evening and tackling this breaking news. It's been a very, very busy evening. Thank goodness Donald Trump is in one piece, and Kamala Harris. And the winner tonight, democracy. So there you are, a tumultuous day in what has become an extraordinary race for the White House. I'm Mark Dolan. Keep it GB News. Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment. This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory. Don't miss my big opinion. Mark meets and my take at 10. Democracy is a funny old thing. And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it. Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it. That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and he did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning, welcome to the programme. A second assassination attempt on Trump.
The former president was playing golf near his Florida residence when the Secret Service spotted the alleged gunman hiding in bushes.
58-year-old man has been taken into custody.
So Keir Starmer has said he's interested in Italy's migration deal with Albania as he prepares to meet Giorgia Meloni in Rome.
And to the Tory leadership race, Robert Jenrick says we need to slash more than 100,000 civil service jobs to achieve a small state that works.
And former BBC newsreader Hugh Edwards is set to be sentenced today at Westminster Magistrates' Court after pleading guilty to making indecent images of children.
Sales of electric blankets are soaring as pensioners face a freezing winter without their fuel allowance. The retailer, John Lewis, has seen as sales soar by 173%.
And as teenagers are crossing the border from England to Scotland to get botox and dermal fillers, we're asking, should Scotland ban the practice?
And in the sport, it says on here, deliver it like you don't care. Tottenham Hotspur lose to Arsenal for the third time in a row at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Oh.
McLaren have a very good Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and is hobby horsing the future of sport? In my eyes, yes it is.
Hello, good morning. Well, after a chilly start, there's going to be plenty of dry and fine weather around. There will be some fog in places, though, for the Monday morning commute, so join me later for all the details.
It's 6:01. I'm Isabel Webster.
And I'm Ben Leo, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Now, are you two going to be able to keep it friendly in here this morning?
Yes.
Hoytie's had a bad weekend.
I've had a really bad weekend.
You can't.
I don't need to say anything. I'll just sit here. The facts speak for themselves.
No, you're doing it now. You're doing it now, aren't you? You're doing it now.
What was the score?
What was the score?
Yeah.
It was Tottenham Hotspur 0, Arsenal 1.
OK, so Arsenal won. OK. It was an interesting weekend, Paul, because I didn't see... if I had my way, I would have sat in all weekend watching the Formula 1, watching the football, and you know, just enjoyed myself. But I was dragged out to family events. So how did the game go? Did Arsenal play well?
Well, I'll tell you about it a little bit later.
OK.
In an official capacity, I'll talk about that. So I started off with Friday. I had my two dogs decided to eat Nespresso capsules, which is probably not a good thing for dogs.
Oh, no.
I get a call from my daughter before she's about to go, pack it up, going, Dad, there's coffee everywhere and the dogs are chewing. They see all this. So I'm like, what do I do now? The answer is phone. So I'm looking stuff up, and and every website, whenever you look stuff up, says the dogs are going to die.
Fatal.
Yeah, there's no question. Phone the vet. Bring them in. They're both given an injection to be made sick. 200 pounds later, the dogs come out looking sheepish, coffee everywhere. Daughter goes to Manchester University, which is a lovely university, but it's a fair old way away. So I had no idea how bad that was going to be. Yeah. Teary, and then Spurs lose to Arsenal.
Oh my goodness!
How was your weekend?
We're going to cheer you up, I promise.
I'll take it easy on you today.
Yeah, we'll look
you know what? I would appreciate that.
No worries.
Are you sure?
Would you like a tea or a coffee? Some
That'd
biscuits?
be nice. Yeah. Biscuits would be lovely.
I think we've got some croissants out the back.
Oh.
We'll look after you, Paul.
We'll look after you.
Thank you.
Let's turn our attention to the big story of the day. A man has been arrested, and this is after an assault rifle was recovered after an apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump was foiled.
The former President Trump was playing golf on his course in Florida when gunshots were fired, and the Secret Service opened fire on the armed suspect.
The individual left an AK-47-style assault rifle and other items at the scene and fled in a vehicle, but was later arrested.
And, of course, it comes just 2 months after he was shot at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania.
Well, let's speak now to former Nevada Republican Party chairwoman Amy Tarkanian. This is terrible news. It's absolutely devastating, whether you like or loathe Donald Trump. Unacceptable. What is going on in America?
Well, it's frightening. And actually, this man has a little bit of a rap sheet, which is even more concerning, because where did he fall through the cracks? There is a list of problems where he did a hit and run. He had been arrested for possession of another weapon. He had been in possession of stolen goods. And the biggest concern was in North Carolina, he was actually part of a barricade where he closed himself off for over 3 hours with a fully automatic machine gun. And he was only given probation, according to North Carolina corrections records. So there is a massive problem, I think, also within our justice system, and the fact that this guy is even allowed to roam around at this point.
This alleged shooter, Ryan Ruth, he was apparently, according to reports online, a big supporter of Ukraine. He'd, again, reportedly had social media posts accusing Trump of failing democracy and not doing enough to back Ukraine. What do we know about him and his Ukrainian links?
Sure. Well, there's video footage and there's numerous posts on his social media feeds where he is actually trying to actively recruit people to go and fight on behalf of Ukraine. And so he's somebody who was not just somebody who spoke about the war, but he's somebody who actually visited the war, and he's somebody who was very actively trying to get involved as much as possible in the war. And so we still don't know what his motive was, but the fact that we do know President Trump is somebody who wants to limit, if not stop, the amount of funding that goes to the Ukrainian war efforts at this point. I mean, it would lead one to assume that could have maybe been one of the major issues this mentally ill individual had.
Amy, this is being described by the FBI as a success, the fact that they were able to foil it. Do you think it's a success that somebody was able to come so close, lying in wait? Clearly, Donald Trump is walking around with a target on him, and they've already had one, very close shave. They shouldn't have got this close, should they? Or was this a success?
No, I mean, obviously, the outcome was a success, but the beginnings of it, thankfully, there was a innocent bystander who actually saw this potential assassin in the bushes and filed a report, called in the report of concern. And so that's why the security detail was able to move so swiftly. What I've understood is, as the former president was golfing, he had his detail split into two groups. So you had one in front and one in back. And so, the one that was in the advance actually caught the message, also followed through with seeing that this individual was hiding in the bushes with, plenty of ammunition and weaponry to do potential damage. And they were able to take him in. But if it wasn't for this other individual who happened to catch him while he was driving by and make the phone call, who knows if it would have been a success.
We've heard from Trump himself, who released a statement, and of course the White House as well. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris both releasing statements. Kamala Harris saying she was glad that her political rival at least, was okay. What does this mean politically for the election? It's 7 weeks away now. Is this going to be, as we saw with the Pennsylvania attempted assassination, maybe a little boost in the polls for Donald Trump?
Well, maybe a slight bump. I don't think as massive as a bump as what happened the first go around. I think the fact that you now has, as you just mentioned, both Kamala Harris and President Biden very swiftly put out a message of condemning the violence and thanking Secret Service and our police officers for doing their job. I think that was very important, so that way we as a nation can continue to move forward. Whereas the first time that happened, it seemed that the White House was kind of moving very slowly and everyone was really confused and kind of taken aback. I think now that this has happened not once, but twice in a matter of just a couple of months, I would hope that President Trump and his family and his team would beef up their security even more so. I mean, you even hear people say, I hope he has a food taste tester, because this is getting out of hand and it's terrifying.
What would be the impact if any of these attempts had been successful, do you think, on democracy, on law and order? I mean, do you think that there would be civil unrest if Donald Trump had tragically been assassinated?
Well, that's an assumption I would hate to actually make. I would hope that law and order would stay in place. I think right now people are somewhat in shock that this has happened not just once, but twice in such a short amount of time. I mean, this is something that's not unheard of, unfortunately, with high profile and political individuals, but it's been at least a couple, if not several decades since there's been somebody who has actually tried to do with a follow-through of an attempt of assassination and actually be brought to the forefront publicly. And so, this is something that is of major concern. We are in a very toxic environment, unfortunately. Our political atmosphere is at an all-time high of unraveling. You have unrest. I would hope that there would still be civil obedience and not disobedience, and that people would be able to keep cooler heads, because this is something that we need to, get control of, so that way either side is safe. You don't wish this upon anyone.
OK, Amy Tarkanian, you're the former Nevada Republican Party chairwoman. Thank you for joining us this morning. I interviewed Eric Trump a few months back in Scotland when he went up to Trump's golf course there, and the family were fuming with that first assassination attempt in Pennsylvania. They said that, you know, they've been with the Secret Service a long time, ever since they were much, much younger, but they just couldn't get past the anger that somebody was allowed to have a free crack at their dad. As they did in Pennsylvania.
Well, last week, when they went head-to-head in the debate, Melania Trump, just hours before, released a video, didn't she, saying she thought that there was something suspicious involved in that first assassination attempt. They will be very, very aggrieved about all of this. Trump himself struck a very conciliatory tone, I think, given that he was the subject of yet another attempt on his life, coming out calling for unity and peace, and saying that nothing will slow him down. I think that, you know, given how terrifying it must be to live like that, to be perfectly honest, now for him, you know, that was a brave and honourable message to put out there.
He did try and strike that tone the first time it happened in Pennsylvania, and it lasted for about 24 hours. And lots of political analysts and campaigners were saying, if Trump can keep up this message of unity, even if you're faking it, just try and keep it up until the election. You'll probably do yourself a massive favour.
Didn't last very long, though.
Whether he can do it from here on, I don't know.
Let us know your thoughts. We still just scratch our heads, don't we, in this country, as to why they can't get a grip of their gun problem. Why on earth was somebody able to walk around with an AK-47 automatic rifle? Just blows our mind, especially when, you know, we lived through Dunblane, where they were able to get a grip of handguns and ban them in this country. Obviously, there are constitutional issues in the United States, but surely there's the potential for amendments, for changes. It's not working. It's not safe.
The problem is there's so many guns. I think there's 4 or 5 weapons to each American. There's so many guns on the streets. I just don't know how you start.
I just don't believe it's intractable, this problem. You know, I just don't accept that we can't fix it. It's a man-made problem. There should be a man-made solution. And, you know, we've got a problem with knives here. Every now and then we do amnesties. Why can't they get a grip of it? Maybe the fact that they're going and have had these 2 attempts on, you know, the very top of the establishment might make them think twice about it all. But, you know, what do you think about it? Let us know your thoughts this morning. gbnews.com/your say.
OK, let's head to this side of the pond now, where Sir Keir Starmer has said he's interested in learning about how Italy sent migrants to Albania to process their asylum claims.
Well, this is ahead of the Prime Minister's visit to Rome, where he's going to be meeting the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, a little bit later on today.
And it comes, of course, just one day after the Home Office revealed that 801 illegal migrants crossed the Channel on Saturday, which is a record number since Labour came into power. We're joined now by GBNews political correspondent Catherine Forster, who is in Rome for us. Catherine, good morning. Thanks for joining us. Some people asking, Catherine, why Sir Keir Starmer didn't just maybe adapt the Rwanda plan to process migrants, not keep them there permanently, but do as Italy are doing with Albania and just process them offshore. Why couldn't we have just done that?
Yes, good morning to you both. Well, yes, indeed, that is a valid question, because he scrapped the Rwanda scheme immediately on winning the election. Now, of course, the crucial difference, as you say, Ben, is that the Albanian scheme that Giorgia Meloni, the Italian leader, is championing is offshore processing, but basically migrants can apply for asylum. If they are successful, they then will return to Italy. There's 2 camps in Albania. They are taking men, not women, not children, not people deemed vulnerable. But the idea is that they can take up to 3,000 migrants a month. Now, of course, Rwanda was all set up. The previous Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, said that flights would have taken off within weeks after the election. Of course, we'll never know whether that would have happened or not. But the crucial difference was the previous government designed Rwanda as a one-way ticket. The whole thinking was, if you come illegally on small boats to Britain, you will be sent on a one-way ticket to Rwanda. You will not be coming back. So this is a bit different. But yes, Sir Keir Starmer saying that he's interested in looking at how this works, and a number of other European countries now also looking at possible offshore processing. And Italy has had some success in this. It's obviously at the forefront of the challenge of people coming illegally into Europe, but it's managed to get those numbers down by some 60%. in the last year. They've got this scheme, which is very new, just beginning to be up and running now, but also they've done deals with Libya, with Tunisia's upstream, if you like, giving those countries money to stop people coming from there. That's where a lot of people set out from Africa. So Keir Starmer will be meeting Giorgia Meloni. They've met before. Very different political backgrounds, of course. She comes from the far right originally. He was a young socialist when he was younger. But he has promised to smash the gangs. He hasn't promised to stop the boats like Rishi Sunak did. Of course, there was a very notable failure, and we had just 801 across the channel just on Saturday, which, as you said, that's the second highest number this year. 45 people have lost their lives on that crossing this year as well. So he will be meeting Giorgia Meloni, and they've got this new border security commander that they've appointed. That's Martin Hewitt, who is former chair of the National Police Chiefs Council. They will be looking at what they can learn from Italy and how they can work with them more closely in a challenge which is affecting us hugely, but I have to say also this is right across the whole of Europe.
Do you think that it adds to the sort of weight of the argument that Starmer is perhaps a little bit of a hypocrite? You know, here he is, the leader of a left-wing party, meeting up with some people would describe far-right leader of Italy, somebody who you'd think publicly he really abhors, but trying to take policy ideas from him. This just, 24 hours after we learned that he breached rules that he's quite, adamant that he follows closely in relation to his wife and donations of clothes. We've got the whole betrayal of pensioners, as some people are seeing. I mean, is Starmer really the man that people think he is? Does this contribute to that narrative, do you think?
Well, certainly. A lot of people are criticising the fact that Sir Keir Starmer is potentially interested in some sort of offshore processing scheme. Of course, he would say, look, we have to work with the people in power. These are shared challenges. We've got to work with our European partners, no matter what their background. On the issue of Sir Keir Starmer's wife's clothes, this, of course, following the news that was not declared in time, these donations from Lord Ali. We knew that he'd provided money for clothes for the Prime Minister, spectacles, etc. earlier. I think that is potentially very difficult. Now they're saying, look, this was just an administrative error. It has been declared. It was an accident that it wasn't done in time. But I think the optics of this are very, very difficult indeed. Of course, the Prime Minister is not a man short of money, has a big salary following a very big job as a lawyer. And, David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, saying that it's money for the Prime Minister and his wife to look their best. I think a lot of people around the country will be saying, they're earning a fraction of what the Prime Minister is. And, they're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Money has been taken from pensioners. I think it's politically, the optics of this, not good at all. And although the government is saying nothing to see here, I think it really is quite damaging.
Just finally, briefly, you've been spending some time with the Prime Minister in recent weeks. You were on the plane with him with the press pack on the way to Washington. How is he? Is he in good form? Does he look a bit stressed from the job? How is he personally, do you think?
He seems remarkably upbeat, actually, and what struck me is that we came back from Washington on Saturday morning. I'd had about an hour's sleep. He probably had a little bit more, but I went home, sorted myself out and come on to Rome. He, I think, went to the races in Doncaster, the last night of the proms, then the football, then back on the plane. The schedule is punishing. He does seem in good form, but of course his popularity ratings have absolutely fallen through the floor. Now, he said he's prepared to take tough decisions. He knows that they won't be popular. They know that if they're going to do this difficult stuff, they need to do it at the beginning. Now, that may not be a major concern now, but of course, a lot of the seats that Labour won, they won by very, very small margins. So they have got this big majority, but it's pretty shallow. So do think they're going to need to inject some hope because it's all rather doom and gloomy at the moment, isn't it?
Catherine, on the issue of clothes and clothing for his wife, you know, everyone talks about how he's on this high salary, but I really do think you look to the United States and they do this properly. They deck them out. They have a budget specifically for
That's what Lammy was saying. So is that true?
President. Yeah, absolutely. And you read about it in any of the sort of books of the first ladies. I read Michelle Obama's, and they come in and deck them out. It's the same with the royals. You know, as soon as Kate Middleton became a member of the royal family, you know, they suddenly get groomed. She was told skirts had to be below the knee, but there's a budget for it. You know, we wouldn't be in this ridiculous situation where everyone's splitting hairs.
I can't have that. I can't have it. I saw Lammy was sat there saying the same thing. So that is definitely true.
Yeah.
It's just, well, the thing is, we're not America, and the point about the argument about Labour and Starmer is that they said they were going to do things properly.
No,
the fact he didn't declare it was.
I totally agree with that, and I hate the hypocrisy of it as well. But I just wonder, would we even be in this situation if anyone of any political stripe was in power and they had a proper budget for it in order for them to look good on the international stage, representing us?
Yeah, it makes sense. No, I get your point. I get your point. The situation here, though, is that the fact that he didn't declare it, and of course, Labour have been making themselves out to be holier than thou for years and years and years, and they're doing the same things they've accused the Tories of: the cronyism, scrapping the winter fuel payments. They're just doing all the things they accuse the Tories of, and also they're in the right place, aren't they, for fashion in Milan? I wonder if his wife's with him.
Oh gosh.
Filling their boots.
Yeah, let us know what you think about all the topics we're discussing this morning. You know how to do that. In the meantime, we're going to take a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom for you this morning.
More than 10 million people are waiting at least 4 weeks to see a GP. That's up by a fifth, according to research by the Liberal Democrats. Party leader Sir Ed Davey has said everyone should be able to see a doctor when they need one, and blames the Tories for long waiting times. He then pledged the party would aim for everyone to have the right to see a GP within 7 days or 24 hours if it's urgent.
Ukraine's president's pleaded for the UK and US to give permission for Ukraine to use Western missiles to strike Russian targets as Vladimir Putin's forces carried out another bombing raid. He called for decisiveness as he urged leaders to overcome the fear of making the choice.
Sir Keir Starmer and Joe Biden met in Washington on Friday for talks on giving Ukraine permission to use long-range missiles to target Russian airfields and military bases, but no decision was reached.
And to the Emmys, where Baby Reindeer won in 4 of the major categories last night. The hugely popular but highly contentious British TV drama's creator and star, Scottish comedian Richard Gadd, won 3 of those for acting in, writing and executive producing the show. Other winners included Elizabeth Debicki for her fantastic portrayal of Princess Diana in The Crown, and Shogun became the first non-English language show to be named Best Drama.
Still to come, we'll be hearing about rising demand for electric blankets as pensioners. I think hot water bottles are a bit more effective. Yeah.
More offensive?
Oh, no, effective.
Oh, OK.
Or offensive,
All
depending
to be
on your...
discussed coming up after the break. You're watching GB News Breakfast with Ben and Isabel.
I'm Arlene Foster on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
I'm now joined by a truly inspirational man. He's an endurance runner, Ben Smith. 401 marathons in just 401 days for mental health and well-being. He was spurned on after being bullied as a child, was able to raise a whopping £250,000. I'm pleased to say that he joins me now. Right, so this was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yes.
How long ago was it?
Well, we're coming up to, I think, next year, roughly about 10 years since we started it. In 2026 will be 10 years since we finished.
So when did you run the marathons?
So it was between 2015 and 2016, over the course of 401 days, all around the UK.
What kind of madness was that?
Oh, it was an adventure, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, on day one when we started in Bristol, never ever thought that the project would ever become what it became. But over the course of the 401 days, we ran with 13,500 people within 8 miles of everywhere on the British mainland, from Land's End to John O'Groats. So,
and that was the journey from Land's End, John O'Groats,
Yeah. We covered so many different communities around the UK because I suppose the reason why I was doing it was to raise so much money for 2 anti-bullying charities that we wanted to include people in that. And yeah, I got to run in some amazing places.
I bet you did. What would you say is a beautiful place? I mean, the whole country, I love this country, but there are some outstanding, beautiful areas around. What would you say?
Oh, definitely.
Where's the best place that you run?
Well, I think I've got a few, but I think I would say probably the Highlands of Scotland.
I knew you were going to say someone like that.
Yeah, just the kind of vastness of it, the dramaticness of it. I remember running up and down one of the paths in the Highlands near Glencoe and coming face to face with a wild stag. So it was quite scary.
What did it do?
It did nothing. It did absolutely nothing. It was quite used to people because of the path.
What are you doing here? This is my house.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
A charity supporting older people learning digital skills says some pensioners are struggling to apply for pension credit because they aren't online.
Well, the government is, of course, encouraging over 65s to apply for the benefits so that they can continue receiving winter fuel payments that are worth up to £300.
But a third of pensioners don't have a computer, believe it or not. I can believe it. Our East Midlands reporter Will Hollis joined a digital skills hub in Lincolnshire with more on this.
We'll see as we pull it closer and closer, we can get really close.
In the digital age, the ageing are getting to grips with a changing world.
I don't do YouTube or TikTok or anything like that. I haven't even got a clue what it is.
At Ragby's Town Hall in the heart of rural Lincolnshire,
4 and 1, 41.
The weekly social club is keeping the area's older residents connected.
Bingo!
Not just in person, online too. The drop-in sessions, organised by charity Links Digital, give support for online banking and appointments. Now, help applying for pension credit is also a priority.
If you put the pension credit, this page will come up.
Yvonne is one of 10 million pensioners who could lose the winter fuel allowance. Labour is scrapping the universal benefit as part of a £22 billion saving plan, while encouraging older people to apply for pension credit.
They've had to get my bank statements and everything, and they're going to go through it again to see if I can apply.
The government uses an online calculator where people can check if they're eligible for the benefit. Project manager Rich says some pensioners are struggling to apply without support.
We all know things are going to be cut down, and we're here to try and help them, and it's great them saying you can apply for things. There's a checker they can do online, but it's an online checker, so, those people who are not online couldn't do it.
Age is one of the biggest contributors to digital exclusion. A third of people over 65 are offline. Councillor William Gray is portfolio holder for Better Ageing at East Lindsey District Council.
Often in rural communities, they're older communities that haven't followed the trends, haven't been upskilled as much as other communities have. If they are left behind, loneliness, isolation, ill health, unfortunately, and it can just add an age deprivation, and that's what we want to avoid.
The government says some 880,000 pensioners are eligible for the credit and can apply over the phone or by post as well as online. The digital age offers a world of virtual opportunity, but the digital divide is enhancing real-world problems.
If it all goes wrong, I shut it down and start again.
Will Hollis, GB News in Rugby.
Now, in a GB News exclusive, we can reveal that there's been a surge in heated blanket sales as millions of elderly people are set to lose their winter fuel payments due to those cuts.
John Lewis alone saw a 173% increase in heated blanket sales in comparison to the same period last year.
And Google data revealed the increase in sales came minutes after Rachel Reeves declared means-tested winter fuel payments will be introduced.
Dear me, what a sad state of affairs. Octopus Energy CEO has said energy suppliers should be helpful to the government and supply extra support to pensioners losing their winter fuel allowances.
Well, let's speak now to consumer expert Zoe Whitman. There is clearly a link between these two factors then, isn't there? The sale going up and the announcement of this policy. You know, it's a dangerous time as the winter months are approaching for many pensioners.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen this for the last few years, haven't we? I think we're getting to that point that anything that triggers a conversation about what am I going to do this winter is going to affect what people are buying and how people are preparing themselves for colder months.
What about electric blankets? Are they the most energy efficient, Zoe? Do you know? Maybe you're not equipped to answer this question, but is a humble hot water bottle maybe not a better option?
Well, do you know, Octopus Energy did some research into how much it costs to use an electric blanket versus heating your home. They found that it costs about £4 a day to heat the average home, whereas it costs between 2 and 4 pence per hour to use an electric blanket. And I was speaking to a specialist yesterday who actually builds camper vans, because this is the kind of environment where people would be using something like an electric blanket to make sure that the space is warm, and thinking about efficiency and how you can, you know, use like solar power, for example, to fuel that kind of device. So they're thinking of this from a very different problem they're trying to solve. But the guy I was speaking to was saying that, yeah, it might be less than 10 pence per hour. So it's well known that electric blankets use less energy. And we are seeing people, I speak to people who are saying, I'm wearing a heated jacket, and, you know, things like this. This has definitely been a trend since the winter, like the fuel crisis that we've had over the last few years. But what's really important to remember is that electric blankets aren't right for everybody. So yeah, hot water bottles are definitely a consideration. I think that we've got to be really aware right now, if, you know, for anyone who's a pensioner looking into what am I going to do to get through this winter? Do I need to buy a new hot water bottle, or do I need to get an electric blanket? There are also considerations around health and safety. I've been looking on the Fire Brigade's website. So London Fire Brigade have got some information about when it isn't appropriate to use an electric blanket, if you're using particular devices to support you if you have a disability, or if you're using flammable creams like emollient creams. So I think we've got to really start a conversation about health and safety, just to make sure that the people who actually are probably more likely to be thinking about these solutions, who also are the more vulnerable people, are aware of whether this is the right thing for them to do, where the right place for them to invest their money. Because you mentioned earlier that energy suppliers, or Octopus had said that other energy suppliers should be thinking about how they support their customers. Octopus do have a fund. They do have a fund to support people who are in real hardship. So there might be something like that available for you as well. And I think the best thing to do is actually speak to your energy supplier if you've got questions and concerns about your bills this winter.
See, Zoe, I'm a huge fan of an electric blanket myself, and my husband even has one of those gilets with the heat packs in. We live in a freezing house. But what my concern is if people are choosing to use those rather than heat their homes, as we use that more as a luxury, really, to kind of add a bit of comfort. But if people are choosing to use those instead of heating their homes, that accompanies a whole nother raft of problems, things like mould, damp, you know, whether or not their bedroom, the temperature that might reach, you know, in an unheated house, carries with it a whole lot of other risks. You know, these are sort of items that should be supplementary rather than an alternative, surely, to heating your home.
Do you think, though, there's a wider problem here? You know, this has been a problem that's been with us for several years now, definitely since the pandemic. You know, my bills must be 4 times as much as they were in 2019. And we live on a small island. We import nearly everything. We're facing a situation where we've got huge inflation. Most of our energy is imported, and we are at the mercy of wholesale markets. So we are going to be in this situation that, you know, some electric blankets aren't going to solve the problem. We know that we're going to start paying more for energy this winter. The cap is going to change, so we're expecting bills to be higher. Maybe we need to be thinking more about how do we fuel the country? This is obviously a massive crisis. This is a huge crisis for lots of people. The government's under a lot of pressure to make sure that money is allocated in the way that fits with their particular, their plans for the future. But we have a bigger problem as a country in terms of how we source our energy, and maybe there needs to be investment in other places. I know it's going to take a long time to pay off, but there must be better ways for things to be done. I'd like to see grants for solar panels being brought in. You know, there are things that we can do.
That was a big thing a few years ago, wasn't it? We were about to do it, and then the grants were taken away. Bring that back. It would be great.
Absolutely.
OK, Zoe Whitman, thank you. Thank you for joining us this morning. Stay warm. Do you know what? I think this whole conversation is a bit of a red herring, actually, because scrapping the winter fuel allowance is saving something like £1 to £1.5 billion. Yet, if you just halved the £11 billion we're sending abroad for climate aid to countries like Africa or continents like Africa, just half it, perhaps. If you have to do it, half it to £6 billion, you'd solve that problem, you know, in a second. You wouldn't have pensioners freezing their backsides off this winter, and many, according to Labour's own research, many dying as well.
OK, let us know your thoughts this morning. In the meantime, how bad is it going to be today? I think it's actually going to warm up a little bit this week. Honoured Krizik has the details.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got high pressure building this week and that means plenty of fine and dry weather and plenty of that warm autumnal sunshine too. It will be quite a foggy start though, particularly in northwestern parts of England and Wales, so do take care for the Monday morning commute. But that fog will eventually lift and break through the course of the morning. And as high pressure builds, that leaves plenty of dry and fine weather around and feeling quite warm where you do catch the sunshine. There will be a build of higher cloud into the northwest through the course of the day, and perhaps some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just clipping the Outer Hebrides. But otherwise, plenty of fine and dry weather and some late evening sunshine to end the day too. Now, as we progress into Monday evening, that high cloud in the northwest will push in more and more into western parts of Scotland, and we'll start to see a few more of those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the west too. But elsewhere, it is going to remain dry, that high cloud pushing into Northern Ireland, but across northern England, Wales and parts of the south, plenty of clear skies. But that does mean it is going to be turning chilly as soon as the sun goes down, and we're likely to see further patches of mist and fog overnight too. That high cloud will continue to build into the northwest through the course of the night. We can see that rain and drizzle pushing into the Northern Isles, perhaps a little bit heavy at times, and we'll see a strengthening breeze in the northwest too. But elsewhere, where we see those lighter winds, those cooler skies, that is where things are going to be turning cold, and we're likely to see that mist and fog develop in those rural spots. So once again, there may be some mist and fog to start the day on Tuesday, but as the day warms up, it'll lift and break, and we've still got high pressure dominating, which means plenty of those sunny spells. We do still have that high cloud continuing in the north, and this may be thick enough to produce some rain and drizzle at times, but away from these areas, once again, feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Great, wrap up warm. The sun's going to be out though, so I don't mind if it's cold and the sun's out.
Yeah,
as long as the sun's out, that's fine. I'm like a delicate flower. I need the sun.
That's a phrase I've never heard applied to you before. Right, the Great British Giveaway, your chance, of course, to win the equivalent of having an extra £3,000 in your bank account every month for the next year.
Yep, that's 36 grand in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need to make it yours.
Delicate.
This is your chance to win.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. The M1 in Bedfordshire is closed northbound from junction 12. The Toddington and Flitwick turn to 13 at Bedford after an accident involving a car and a lorry. There are delays towards there, and as you divert, the outside lanes also closed southbound with queues on that side too. Now on the M1 in Hertfordshire, the northbound exit at junction 5 at Watford is partly blocked by an accident. In London, Mollison Avenue in Enfield is closed in both directions between Inver Way and Solar Way. The fire services activity. On the M2 in Kent, there's a lane closed where someone's broken down on the westbound exit at junction 5 at Sittingbourne. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking a quarter of an hour in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks, and buses replace trains between Gunners Lake and Calstock because of emergency engineering work.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK. From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Time to go through all the latest sports stories with Paul Coyte, who's a bit down in the dumps
today. Yeah, I've got the tissues for you here, actually.
Okay, thank you very much.
There's a little bit of
just keep them on hand. I think I'm going to be all right. Just keep them on hand,
They're
okay?
just there.
Right, Spurs 0, Arsenal 1.
Oh.
No, put that away.
You said you'd be nice.
You said you'd be nice, but you couldn't help yourself. Towering header by Gabriel. It was another set piece. The thing is, Arsenal, what they've got is a set piece coach, which is working extremely well. And the amount of goals that they get from set pieces and corners, whereas you've got Arsenal seem to be very good from set pieces, whereas Spurs are complete opposite when they're facing them. And it was just a perfect corner, nodded in. No, but and it was, there we are. This is the goal here from Gabriel, and unfortunately, Christian Romero nowhere to be seen as he makes the header. Odegaard was out, Rice was out, Spurs were wasteful, had plenty of chances. It looked like it was all Spurs at the start, but Arsenal have just got such a good defence.
Yeah.
Just dealt with them.
We're good attacking corners, and also defending corners we're pretty solid as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's those sort of games. It doesn't matter that it's a North London derby. The fact that it's away and there's injuries, that they can still manage to grind out a result, bodes well for Arsenal for the rest of the season.
It's early in the season, Paul. Let's say that. It's early. Anything can happen. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that you trying to make me feel?
Yeah.
Yes, that was him being kind and generous. We've only got one more minute, Coyte, so where do you want to go next? Hobby horsing or the Solheim Cup?
You know what? I think we may have to... You want to do the hobby horsing? We've got the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. We've got Wolves lost to Newcastle 2-1. I think really the Manchester City... We'll say the hobby horsing. Manchester City, the hearing begins today. Hearing into Man City's 115 charges that the Premier League are bringing against them. So here are the charges. 54 charges for failure to provide accurate financial information. 14 charges for providing accurate details for player and management payments, 5 charges for failure to comply with UEFA rules, and 7 times breaching Premier League rules. It goes on and on and on. It's being heard today, and you've got Pep Guardiola saying, hopefully this will be resolved very quickly. I have a feeling this could run a very, very long time.
Send them down to the Championship. League
One,
even
get
out
of the
Prem.
League 2, let's see how things go.
Let's see.
Yeah.
All right, Coyte.
Non-league football, how about that? Make them hobby horse.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we'll hold you to that. We want some hobby horsing in the next hour. Okay. Appreciate it. Right, stay with us. Lots more coming your way. We're going through the papers in just a moment. See you there.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB News newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Would you have Harry back with open arms? And this is Ian. Hi, Ian. Harry is unfortunately not well. He's an emotional wreck. Ian, you actually took the words out of my mouth. I remember when I was younger, queuing up for hours for West Ham tickets. I'm that sad. But at least I got the ticket. It was my ticket. They knew it was me, and there were no touts involved. It's Forever says Harry can stay away. He was so quick to condemn this country as racist and to trash the Queen and royal family's reputations. He should be banished and his titles removed. He has not earned the right to call himself anything with a royal title. Ooh, passionate. Since moving to the US with Meghan, the American dream has had a number of issues for him, I think it's fair to say. But if Harry was to return, would he be welcome? And could he make it up with William? Look, if Oasis, sorry I said the O word, have done it, can William and Harry?
Well, I think it's going to present a lot of challenges. I mean, we've got to be clear here. When it comes to reconciliation, if it's possible, obviously, to mend the rift with William, clearly that is to be welcomed. But as for Harry returning, what precisely would that mean? What precisely would Harry want? Because if it is in any sense a return to royal duties, you really got to be very, very careful with what you're dealing with. As far as the royal family are concerned, for goodness sake, reconciliation, yes, but actual work as a senior working royal is not, in my opinion.
So I always think it's quite funny listening to serious people talk seriously about the royals, because it's not that serious, a lot of it. But actually, I think where I'm fascinated by them is that we can sort of see a bit of ourselves as a society and as individuals.
GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. We're going to go through the papers this morning in the company of Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi. And just to let you know at home, we do have an extra ad break in the 6 o'clock hour now, which is good for the channel, and we're pleased to have it. But it means, actually, we haven't quite got on top of our timings, have we, this morning? Time's run away with us. We've only got 4 minutes to go through the papers, so it's brief, but we will make sure we're more on it later on in the programme. But, Chris, let's start with you. Front of the Daily Mail and inside on page 6 is more on why Sir Keir Starmer, the millionaire top lawyer, can't afford to buy his own clothes, or his wife her own clothes.
Yeah, and I think that's a massive headline. Why can't you, the son of a tool maker, who's now a millionaire, who has 200 grand a year coming from your property portfolio, who earns 166 grand a year as a PM and constituent MP, why can you not afford to buy your missus a dress? Now, I heard the argument from the Labour benches that apparently in the US of A, and they look after their First Lady and look after their leaders and dress them all nice. But this is the same guy and same government who think that an old age pensioner on 13 grand a year can afford to get their clothes and feed themselves and heat their homes. And you can't afford to buy your clothes.
I mean, the optics are absolutely terrible.
It's terrible, isn't it?
The only thing I would say, being a TV presenter, a big part of our job is to look the part as well as to do the role. Now, if we were to spend all of our hard-earned cash on new outfits constantly, we would hardly make any... It's pretty normal for people in high-profile, public-facing, television roles, whether they're royals, TV presenters, whatever, to have a budget to help them with that, even if they're individually wealthy.
Excuse me, the thing thing is with this, it is our... It's, you know, they are in positions of power, and the thing is, it doesn't happen, and the rules is the rules, and they broke the rules. And what I can't get my head around is Keir Starmer, who used to be our Director of Public Prosecutions, didn't understand the rules that said, you can only do this, your family can only do this, and you have to declare it within 28 days. And he didn't do that. If he doesn't understand the rules, how does he expect anyone else to understand the rules? And the main problem is the sheer hypocrisy of literally all the Labour Party, Keir Starmer in particular, having a go at Boris Johnson non-stop over the wallpaper gate, over the curtain gate, over every other gate about decorating Number 10. It's hypocrisy. He was saying, no, you've got to go, you should be doing this. And he's doing the self-same thing.
So 20, 30 years ago in the political sphere, hypocrisy was a real shame, a real shanda. But in today's world, over the last few years, it's de rigueur. Actually, politicians and hypocrisy go hand in hand.
Goes with the territory, Chris, absolutely.
Which just turns people off, surely. And it's bad for democracy because people just think, oh, you know, plague on both your houses, frankly.
Exactly that. I mean, they're all the same.
Yep.
You know, I think we all had high hopes. Oh, we need fresh change. Tories hadn't covered themselves in glory. Let's get something done. And it's just that they're exactly the same.
When you know politicians lie? Because the lips are moving.
Yeah.
Well, you still get some commentators and, you know, supporters, I won't name any names, but still, regardless of what we've seen from the last couple of weeks, still sticking by Labour, not calling out the hypocrisy. You know, I don't mind people supporting parties and voicing your opinion, but when you see hypocrisy, don't be so tribal not to call it out. Chris, shall we get stuck into Labour could copy US Democrats by giving influencers, online social media stars, top billing? They're going to social media stars to push their agenda.
Is that you, Dawn?
Oh, Dawn, sorry.
That's fine. You can identify... I don't mind. This is basically the Labour conference, which is coming up very soon, may feature ring light selfies and TikTok dancers as the Labour Party are being inspired by a Kamala Harris campaign in America, and they're inviting social media influencers to their conference. Labour's campaign was quite successful on social media, in particular on TikTok, because they were doing this. So they've been inspired by what they did then, as well as Kamala Harris. And they are going to have a load of influencers doing live streaming from the Labour Party conference to attract that younger vote.
So wasn't that the success of the previous Labour leaders' campaign? Was actually
Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn incredibly
mobilised the people on the streets. The real working class Labour supporter. He mobilised.
So they're onto something here, effectively. But there's no reason why the Tories couldn't do the same. It's the future, isn't it?
Well, the Tories are still too busy infighting. I don't even know who their leader is yet. So, I mean, they're getting influencers and TikTokers there, but...
I think it was Reform which really pushed ahead with this in the election. They were tapping into that under sort of 21 vote with funny TikToks. Well,
it's amazing. It's good you mentioned that, Ben, because you had Nigel Farage and Jeremy Corbyn, two of the most popular politicians on TikTok.
Grassroots. Yeah, they understand.
With youngsters.
Grassroots.
With youngsters.
Young youth vote and social media.
Isn't it what Ed Davey's trying to do when he's all this clowning around?
He's trying. Not as much success. But then, you know, they've got quite a few MPs now. So anyway, right, we're out of time. We'll have more, I promise, next hour with Chris and with Dawn.
Let's get your weather update with Honor Criswick.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got high pressure building this week and that means plenty of fine and dry weather and plenty of that warm autumnal sunshine too. It will be quite a foggy start though, particularly in northwestern parts of England and Wales, so do take care for the Monday morning commute. But that fog will eventually lift and break through the course of the morning. And as high pressure builds, that leaves plenty of dry and fine weather around and feeling quite warm where you do catch the sunshine. There will be a build of higher cloud into the northwest through the course of the day, and perhaps some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just clipping the Outer Hebrides. But otherwise, plenty of fine and dry weather and some late evening sunshine to end the day too. Now, as we progress into Monday evening, that high cloud in the northwest will push in more and more into western parts of Scotland, and we'll start to see a few more of those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the west too. But elsewhere, it is going to remain dry, that high cloud pushing into Northern Ireland, but across northern England, Wales and parts of the south, plenty of clear skies. But that does mean it is going to be turning chilly as soon as the sun goes down, and we're likely to see further patches of mist and fog overnight too. That high cloud will continue continue to build into the northwest through the course of the night. We can see that rain and drizzle pushing into the Northern Isles, perhaps a little bit heavy at times. And we'll see a strengthening breeze in the northwest too. But elsewhere, where we see those lighter winds, those cooler skies, that is where things are going to be turning cold. And we're likely to see that mist and fog develop in those rural spots. So once again, there may be some mist and fog to start the day on Tuesday, but as the day warms up, it'll lift and break. And we've still got high pressure dominating, which means plenty of those sunny spells. We do still have that high cloud continuing in the north, and this may be thick enough to produce some rain and drizzle at times. But away from these areas, once again, feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Antrim, the A12 is partly blocked southbound by an accident on the West Link in Belfast at the junction with Grosvenor Road, causing delays. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is blocked each way by an accident at the Ashby-de-la-Saund turn between Sleaford and Lincoln. The M1 in Bedfordshire is closed northbound from junction 12, the Tollington and Flitwick turn to 13 at Bedford after an accident. There are delays in both directions towards the closure, and as you divert. In London, Mollison Avenue in Enfield's closed because of fire services activity. Trains in London have been stopped between West Ealing and Greenford because of a faulty train. On the M26 in Kent, it's taking half an hour now in westbound queues approaching the M25 because of roadworks. Trains have been stopped between Corriton and Cardiff Queen Street because of a points failure. And buses replaced trains between Calstock and Gunners Lake for emergency engineering work.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good morning to you. A second assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
Yes, the former president was playing golf near his Florida residence when the Secret Service spotted the alleged gunman hiding, lying in wait in the bushes.
A 58-year-old man has been taken into custody, and elsewhere, Sir Keir Starmer says he's interested in Italy's migration deal with Albania as he prepares to meet Giorgia Meloni in Rome.
To the Tory leadership race, Robert Jenrick says we need to slash more than 100,000 civil service jobs to achieve a small state that actually works.
And former BBC newsreader Hugh Edwards is set to be sentenced today at Westminster Magistrates Court. That's after pleading guilty to making indecent images of children.
Sales of electric blankets soar as pensioners face a freezing winter without fuel allowance. The retailer John Lewis has seen sales soaring by 173%.
And as teenagers are crossing the border from England to Scotland to get botox and dermal fillers, we're asking, should Scotland ban the practice?
And in the sport this morning, Tottenham Hotspur lost to Arsenal at home for the third time in a row to a towering Gabriel header. Oscar Piastri won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which puts McLaren at the top of the Constructors' Championship for the first time in a decade. And if you, like me, dream of being a show jumper but have no horse, worry no longer, I have the answer for you.
Hello, good morning. Well, after a chilly start, there's going to be plenty of dry and fine weather around. There will be some fog in places, though, for the Monday morning commute, so join me later for all the details.
It's just gone 7 o'clock. I'm Isabel Webster.
And I'm Ben Leo, and this is GB News Breakfast.
See, if I'd have known that this was a lifelong dream of yours, Coity, I've got a hobby horse. My kids have a hobby horse at home. I'll bring it in. It can be yours.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
I do have a hobby horse. That's the thing. I don't know whether it's... I think it's probably the closest you can get to actually riding a horse.
Not sure.
A hobby horse, if you saddle it up. But anyway, look, there's these championships, and I started in Finland, and we'll deal with it a bit later, but they take it very seriously. You're not supposed to mock the hobby horsing, so they even... It's not only do they go... Honestly, crying out loud.
I mean, do they make noises?
They do jumps and everything.
They do so there we are, on the hobby horse. So not only do they go over jumps, they do dressage as well. And Ben, I see you more of a dressage specialist.
Only at weekends, Paul.
OK, fine. Well, it's...
Only at weekends.
I'm bringing it in. This has to be seen on TV.
I think so. It's very serious.
All right, Coity, we look forward to having more from you on that a little bit later on.
OK, to more serious matters now. A man has been arrested and an assault rifle recovered after an apparent assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
The former President Trump was playing golf on his course in Florida when gunshots were fired and the Secret Service opened fire on the armed suspect.
The individual left an AK-47 style assault rifle and other items at the scene and fled in a vehicle, but was later arrested.
And this, of course, comes just less than 2 months after Trump was shot at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania.
Earlier, we spoke to former Nevada Republican Party chairwoman Amy Tarkanian about the suspect shooter.
Where did he fall through the cracks? There is a list of problems where he did a hit and run. He had been arrested for possession of another weapon. He had been in possession of stolen goods. And the biggest concern was in North Carolina, he was actually part of a barricade where he closed himself off for over 3 hours with a fully automatic machine gun. And he was only given probation, according to North Carolina corrections records. So there is a massive problem, I think, also within our justice system, and the fact that this guy is even allowed to roam around at this point.
About this alleged shooter, Ryan Ruth, he was apparently, according to reports online, a big supporter of Ukraine. He'd, again, reportedly had social media posts accusing Trump of failing democracy and not doing enough to back Ukraine. What do we know about him and his Ukrainian links?
Sure. Well, there's video footage and there's numerous posts on his social media feeds where he is actually trying to actively recruit people to go and fight on behalf of Ukraine. And so he's somebody who was not just somebody who spoke about the war, but he's somebody who actually visited the war. And he's somebody who was very actively trying to get involved as much as possible in the war. And so we still don't know what his motive was, but the fact that we do know President Trump is somebody who wants to limit, if not stop, the amount of funding that goes to the Ukrainian war efforts at this point. I mean, it would lead one to assume that could have maybe been one of the major issues this mentally ill individual had.
Well, let's get the thoughts this morning of the former Scotland Yard detective, Peter Bleksley. Good morning to you, Peter.
Morning.
This is frightening. And, you know, who knows if this will happen again? There's 7 weeks until the election happens in the United States. This is the second attempt in 2 months.
Yes, and quite clearly former President Trump is arguably the most targeted politician on earth at the moment. A very worrying set of circumstances. Whether you are a fan of him or deeply opposed to him and his politics, we do not want our politicians being subjected to violence or potentially assassinated. There are two people, I think, that come out of this with considerable credit. That is the member of the Secret Service that was part of the advance party. So the people involved in protecting President Trump who go in advance of the bodyguards that surround him. And that would be the Secret Service guard that spotted the barrel of the weapon pointing through the fence and then, of course, engaged with the shooter there and fired shots by all accounts. And secondly, the very alert member of the public who I'm sure was aware of their environment, former President Trump's golf course. Everyone knows what a fan of golf President Trump is. And when they hear the gunshots, has the quick-wittedness to pull their phone out and photograph a man who is hurriedly making his way to a getaway vehicle and photographing that vehicle.
Was it... There's an argument that the Secret Service failed because shots were fired. Surely the whole point of a Secret Service personnel is to ensure that no shots are fired, and you don't even get to that point. And it's the second time, as we've discussed, second time in months where Trump has dodged bullets, literally.
There is no such thing as perfect security. It simply does not exist. And I've worked in the security world for a number of years, including providing close protection to high-profile people. You could, of course, make an argument that there should perhaps have been a sweep of the exterior of the golf course using dogs and the such like. But there are limited resources. I know that might sound a bit strange with a high-profile person like Donald Trump, and this will undoubtedly be under consideration now. Perhaps the Secret Service is saying we are going to have to supply so many resources to protecting former President Trump that the level will be unprecedented.
I mean, it is virtually impossible to protect against lone wolf attacks, isn't it? Because it only takes one person to fire the fatal bullet, and the role of a politician is public-facing. The very nature of the job is putting yourself in, I suppose, harm's way all the time. But we talk about, whether or not this was a failing. Yes, the FBI responded swiftly. Yes, Donald Trump, came away from this unscathed. But the very fact that the shooter actually was able to get away from the scene, even though shots had been fired, so they clearly missed the offender. And then actually there was some time before the car was stopped, and I believe the defence from the FBI was that they didn't want to create a high-speed chase. They wanted to make sure they had enough vehicles encircling this chap before they arrested him. But, this was an armed and dangerous individual that they took quite a while to get a grip of. Is that really a success? Not least, sorry to go on and on, but the head of the FBI also stood down after the last incident that was a fail, frankly. Are there questions for the FBI in all of this?
Undoubtedly, but on the facts that we know, this person should undoubtedly have been the subject of police or Secret Service interest. If they had been in the UK, they flicked so many switches that they undoubtedly would have come to the attention of the security services in this country, if not the police. Convictions for firearms, their huge interest, some would say almost to an obsessive point about the Ukraine and Russian war, and so on and so forth. And convicted of those crimes and lived in North Carolina, 650 miles away or so from Florida, and with a weapon that can fire 600 rounds a minute. Think about that. 10 bullets a second can be fired from this type of weapon. So, of course, questions to be asked, but let's just be grateful that nobody came to any harm.
Yeah, indeed. OK, Peter Blexley, thank you very much, former Scotland Yard detective. You just wonder, Trump says that he will never surrender in that statement. Is he going to keep campaigning? I mean, call me a coward, but if that was me, for a second time, I'd be campaigning from my basement.
Well, there were also reports that, in spite of being resilient and insisting that he will continue, he was understandably rattled in the wake of the previous attempt on his life. I mean, he was shot. It's unsurprising. And so close to having lost his life. Would you want to continue? Perhaps we wouldn't.
No,
but,
I'd be hiding.
Sterner stuff than us, that's for sure. But to UK politics now, and Sir Keir Starmer has said that he's interested in learning about how Italy is sending migrants to Albania to process their asylum claims.
This is ahead of the Prime Minister's visit to Rome, where he'll meet Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni a bit later today.
And it comes one day after the Home Office revealed that 801 illegal migrants crossed the Channel on Saturday. It is a record number since Labour came into power.
We're joined now by GB News political correspondent Catherine Forster, who is in Rome for us. Good morning, Catherine. Thanks for joining us. The optics over the weekend, again, not good for Labour and Sir Keir Starmer. And also with this plan about the migrants, some people are asking, or suggesting even, that he's kind of curtailing to the so-called far right by suggesting that he'd copy Meloni's plans to deal with illegal migration.
Well, the thing is that the issue of people crossing the Channel on small boats continues to be a very pressing issue for the new Prime Minister, as it was for the last one. We had 801 people cross just on Saturday. 8 men died, 6 people in hospital, including a 10-month-old baby. So they clearly do need to take action on this. Now, of course, he scrapped the Rwanda scheme that the previous government had said people would have been on flights from July. This government is saying they're going to smash the gangs, but that is clearly something that they can only do if they work with our partners in Europe, because of course the people coming to the UK have crossed the whole of Europe to get there. So Sir Keir Starmer is in Italy today. This is part of his European reset. He's been in Berlin, he's been in Paris, he's been in Dublin, and he's here to talk to Giorgia Meloni about lots of issues. I mean, they'll be talking about Ukraine, about the Middle East, but illegal migration, or irregular migration, as it's increasingly being called, will be top of the list, because Italy is at the very front of the challenge, and it's managed to cut the numbers coming here by some 60% in the last year. So Sir Keir Starmer very interested in how that has been achieved. Now, partly the Italian government has given quite large sums of money to Libya and Tunisia to try to keep people from crossing from those countries, but also they've now just got this new Albania processing deal up and running. Processing centres, it's Europe's first offshore processing scheme, and they won't be sending women or children or vulnerable people, but they will be sending men. Now, people can claim asylum from there. If they're successful, they will then be allowed into Italy, but the idea is that they will be able to take up to 3,000 people a month. So Sir Keir Starmer is saying certainly he's going to look at this. Now, in terms of smashing the gangs, that's the sort of buzzword we hear from this government, not the stop the boats that Rishi Sunak promised and failed to deliver. They're saying they've just appointed a new border security commander. That's Martin Hewitt. He was former chair of the National Police Chiefs Council. They are working with partners across Europe. The previous government also were doing, but this government putting much more of a focus on that. So it's not the first time that Starmer and Meloni have met. They had a long conversation back at the European Political Community meeting at Blenheim Palace in July. Of course, they come from very, very different political backgrounds. Starmer was a young socialist in his youth. Giorgia Meloni comes originally from the far right. So very different political outlooks, but this shared challenge of illegal migration, and of course 45 people so far this year have died trying to cross the English Channel.
Catherine, thanks very much.
OK, let's have a look at some of the other stories coming into the newsroom this morning.
Some breaking news this morning. Tito Jackson, the eldest brother of Michael Jackson, has died at the age of 70. He passed away yesterday from a suspected heart attack whilst driving from New Mexico to Oklahoma. The former Jackson family manager, Steve Manning, has confirmed the death. However, an official cause has not yet been confirmed.
And more than 10 million people are waiting at least 4 weeks to see a GP. That's up by a fifth. According to research by the Liberal Democrats, party leader Sir Ed Davey has said everyone should be able to see a doctor when they need one, and blames the Tories for long waiting times. He also pledged the party would aim for everyone to have the right to see a GP within 7 days or 24 hours if it's urgent.
And to the Emmys, where Baby Reindeer won in 4. I can't say it without doing her accent. 4 of the major categories last night. It was fantastic, if a little bit shocking. It was hugely popular, but highly contentious. And their creator and star, Scottish comedian Richard Gadd, also won 3 of those for acting, writing and executive producing the show. Other winners included Elizabeth Debicki's portrayal of Princess Diana, which was frankly uncanny, in The Crown, and Shogun. I haven't seen this one. It became the first non-English language show to be named Best Drama. Let us know if you've seen that and what you think.
Sad news about Tito Jackson. Are you a Michael Jackson fan?
Massive fan. In fact, I was
Me
just
too.
playing a bit of Jackson 5 to the kids over the weekend, and it's just so joyful, isn't it? And 70's no age at all in this day and age.
No.
So what's happened there?
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll find out more. But yeah, yet another one from the Jackson 5.
I love MJ. I think he is still the king of pop. People like to compare Taylor Swift to Michael Jackson. I say absolutely no chance.
I wish I'd seen him. I wish I'd seen him. But I can't detach him from some of his crimes.
I think controversial. I think he's innocent. He's, of course, never been found guilty of anything in court.
Money talks.
Yeah, payments were made, but anyway, yeah. I think it's going to be a little bit nippy in the coming days, but sunny, which is the most important.
Yeah, and the temperatures are on the up. I heard somewhere 25 by the end of the week. We're all about that.
Nice.
Here's the details with Honor Krizik.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got high pressure building this week and that means plenty of fine and dry weather and plenty of that warm autumnal sunshine too. It will be quite a foggy start though, particularly in northwestern parts of England and Wales, so do take care for the Monday morning commute. But that fog will eventually lift and break through the course of the morning. And as high pressure builds, that leaves plenty of dry and fine weather around and feeling quite warm where you do catch the sunshine. There will be a build of higher cloud into the northwest through the course of the day, and perhaps some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just clipping the Outer Hebrides. But otherwise, plenty of fine and dry weather and some late evening sunshine to end the day too. Now, as we progress into Monday evening, that high cloud in the northwest will push in more and more into western parts of Scotland, and we'll start to see a few more of those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the west too. But elsewhere, it is going to remain dry, that high cloud pushing into Northern Ireland, but across northern England, Wales and parts of the south, plenty of clear skies. But that does mean it is going to be turning chilly as soon as the sun goes down, and we're likely to see further patches of mist and fog overnight too. That high cloud will continue to build into the northwest through the course of the night. We can see that rain and drizzle pushing into the Northern Isles, perhaps a little bit heavy at times, and we'll see a strengthening breeze in the northwest too. But elsewhere, where we see those lighter winds, those cooler skies, that is where things are going to be turning cold, and we're likely to see that mist and fog develop in those rural spots. So once again, there may be some mist and fog to start the day on Tuesday, but as the day warms up, it'll lift and break, and we've still got high pressure dominating, which means plenty of those sunny spells. We do still have that high cloud continuing in the north, and this may be thick enough to produce some rain and drizzle at times, but away from these areas, once again, feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Well, if the promise of some sunshine isn't enough to cheer you up, the Great British Giveaway might do just the thing. It's the equivalent of an extra £3,000 a month for a whole year.
Yeah, and £36,000 tax-free cash. A couple of holidays, I think. We can't enter, of course, but if you did win, what would you do with it? Here's all the details you need on how to enter.
Good luck.
Very good luck to you. Still to come, we'll be asking, is it time to ban botox, specifically for kids?
Yeah, for children, of course it is. How could you argue any other way? Well, somebody will be after this short break. Find out who.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. GB News royalty with your perfect start to the weekend. Lucky us. Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. And a few surprises along the way. Might be cold in this studio. That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9 only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Right, this story is really disturbing. Teenagers are crossing the border from England to go into Scotland to get botox and dermal fillers, which could, to be honest, disfigure them for life.
Yeah, why would you do it? Why? You've got youth on your side.
Beautiful.
Maybe when you're, I don't
old
know.
and wrinkled.
I was going to give an age then, and I'm not going to offend anyone. Anyway, the ban on under-18s getting the so-called tweakments was introduced in England in 2021, but now the Scottish Government is yet to impose a similar rule despite pressure.
Well, is it time then that the Scots crack down on under-18s getting these sorts of treatments? Let's get the thoughts this morning of the entrepreneur and media commentator Eamonn and the former model Nicola McLean. Morning, ladies, beautiful ladies. Right. Amy, to you first of all, because you actually think that Scotland shouldn't introduce a ban. Why not?
Well, for me, it's not about a ban. It's actually about the injectors needing to have stricter regulations. I mean, as far as I know, they don't need much in terms of training or experience or even insurance. So if something goes terribly wrong, they most likely don't know what to do, and they're putting this teenager in danger. So I think it's actually not about the teenagers, it's about the injectors, and there being stricter regulations in this non-surgical aesthetics world. And I personally think that these treatments should only be done by doctors, properly medically trained professionals.
Nicola, it's a bit sad, isn't it? We've got kids who are feeling inspired to inject themselves with anti-aging treatments. I mean, what happens to kids just being kids?
Oh, 100%. And while I agree with what Amy said, at the end of the day, we're debating whether or not children should be able to do it. And in Scotland, they are, which is crazy. Teenagers will make mistakes, won't they? I've got an 18-year-old myself. I've got a 14-year-old boys, but still, and it's up to me, obviously, to hopefully show them that it's not the right thing to do, but also we need to take the choice away from them, because I know lots of young girls that absolutely would go to Scotland to get this done if they can't get it over here, and it's just so wrong. We need to be taking the choice away from them. I mean, I get Botox, I absolutely love it. I'm due to get mine done tomorrow, but I started doing it when I was an adult, not when I was a 17, 16-year-old girl.
Yeah, it's just so shocking to me. I was at a sort of gathering a couple of weeks ago, and one of the girls was the daughter of a friend, was 13, and she looked like an adult, beautiful adult. You know, she was an adolescent, but she blossomed and she was stunning. And she was sitting there sort of looking at herself and just picking herself apart. And her mum was trying to say to her, you look great, you look great. And I just felt like saying, let's just stop talking about how you look. Like, who cares? It's the least interesting thing about you. But the role of the parent in all of this has to come into it, doesn't it, Amy? Rather than necessarily setting bans, surely we need to teach our girls that there's more to life than how you look.
Absolutely, it should come from the parent. But unfortunately, I think nowadays, children, teenagers, they're so influenced by social media. So no matter what the parent says, sometimes kids will do whatever they want to do, and they're going to find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way, which is why I really feel it's so important for the injector to be more regulated and more experienced. And I don't think it's ever going to be that way. So that's why I actually think it should just be done by doctors, by medically trained professionals, even nurses, but not just these people that go for weekend courses and they learn how to do Botox and filler and then they put everyone in danger.
So, Amy, is there ever a situation where... Sorry, Nicola, go on.
But if we take away the choice, so forget all of that. If we put in a law where it should be under 21s, in my opinion,
I
but
think under
definitely
30s.
18. Well, you know, I did it before 30. I can't lie about that. But, you know, I've had children. I was an adult. You know, 18-year-olds are not adults. They think they are because they've turned 18, but they're not, and they make poor choices. We all did it. So take away the choice. Forget the fact that just make it a good doctor that can do it. It just shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
It just shouldn't be allowed. So take away the choice.
Nicola, there's this argument and theory that women these days, young women especially, look a lot older than their years. I'm talking about sort of Love Island types, because they get these treatments when arguably they don't need them. Yeah. And instead of embracing their natural beauty, they're getting all these chemicals pumped into them. And some people suggest they look worse than they would have if they didn't have them in the first place.
100%.
I agree. I think it totally ages you. Yeah. But I just want to say a good doctor has more to lose. They'll lose their license. They'll lose their livelihood. So that's why I think it's about the doctor and not an injector, just an injector.
Go on. I'm so confused. I'm so confused. Yes, only doctors should be able to do it. They're adults. But I'm so confused at your argument. We should not be allowing underage girls, 18 under, as I say, I would make it 21, to be getting fillers and Botox regardless of who's doing it. Yeah. You could go to the best doctor in the world. You're 18, you do not need your face frozen and you do not need fillers in your cheeks and your lips. Like, I don't understand. I'm
not disagreeing with you.
Let me just play devil's advocate. I suppose that's my role, isn't it? You could have a 19-year-old girl who feels that she has some sort of, like, really gummy smile and she's really self-conscious about it. She feels it's holding her back. She's deeply insecure. She's over 18, Nicola. You know, she pops across the border into Scotland, then she could just have a little tweakment. It will go away after a few months if it doesn't look nice. It's not forever. What's wrong with that?
So my argument, if you would call it that, would be I totally understand that. But as someone that was deeply insecure when they were 19 and ended up getting, like, the biggest boobs that you can get in the UK, and now I regret it massively because I made a silly choice. I made a choice based on a child's mind. If I had been given the confidence, if I could have maybe had some therapy rather than just getting implants, and I know we're talking about Botox and fillers, not actual cosmetic surgery, but I think you'll understand it's the same. My poor choice came from deep insecurity, and actually I needed a doctor to say to me, can we work out why you want to do this? Not just go, absolutely, I'll book you in for a week. And I've ended up now with chronic back pain because I'm carrying around stupidly large boobs. We have to look up the mental health around these sorts of things and why teenage girls are wanting to do this so young and why we're all looking the same. We're all morphing into one another because we're all getting what everyone else has got. We really need to look after our children.
Yeah, I agree. We've got to leave it there, Amy Ansell. Sorry, we've got to wrap. 10 seconds.
A doctor takes a Hippocratic oath, so they operate very differently than just an injector. And that, I actually agree with you that, yes, if you do a Hippocratic oath, you're going to find out if this person is best suited for this particular surgery.
Amy Ansell, Nicola McLean, we have to leave it there.
So ban it.
OK, all right. Thank you, ladies. Thank you both very much. And I come back to the phrase that somebody, I don't know who came up with it, but a sunflower will never be a rose and a rose will never be a sunflower. Both are beautiful. Why do we all want to look the same? I don't understand.
I was 20 when I got my nose job.
Are you joking?
That was all right. No?
You do have a nice nose.
I'm joking. Of course I didn't. Of course I didn't. Never. Embrace your natural beauty.
You don't look a day over 19,
I know. I'm still getting away with it. Maybe in 20 years, we'll see.
Right, Paul Coyte's here. He's actually 85. He'll have all the sports for us. It's been a tough weekend, though. We're going to be extra kind.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Antrim, the A12 is blocked southbound by an accident on the Westlink in Belfast between Grosvenor Road and the M1, causing queues. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way after an accident at the Ashby-le-Thorne turn between Sleaford and Lincoln. On the M6 in Staffordshire, 2 lanes are closed northbound where a car's overturned between junctions 15 and 16 near Stoke-on-Trent. The M1 in Bedfordshire is closed northbound from junction 12, the Toddington and Flitwick turn, to 13 at Bedford after an accident with long delays in both directions. In London, Mollison Avenue in Enfield's closed because of fire services activity. Trains in London have been stopped between West Ealing and Greenford because of a faulty train. Trains have also been stopped between Cardiff Queen Street and both Corriton and Heath High Level because of a points failure. Buses replaced trains between Gunners Lake and Calstock for emergency engineering work. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Good afternoon, Britain. Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion. Mark Meets at My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Paul Coit is here. Lots of sports news to go through this morning, starting with the North London derby.
No, let's not talk about that right now. Spurs lost to Arsenal 1-0. Third time on the trot there at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Apparently there's a horrible stat that I heard the other day that you'll probably enjoy more than I will there, Ben, and that's the fact that that Arsenal have won more times at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium than Spurs have won at the Emirates, and the Emirates has been there a lot longer than the
Sounds good to me, Paul.
So there you go.
Sounds like the kind of
stat. I'll give you that. Another corner, another set-piece conceded by Spurs. Arsenal particularly good at set-pieces. They've got a set-piece coach. And Nicholas Jover, his name is. And the thing is, it's like different sports, and like in American football, they have coaches for different things, and it works. And a lot of people were scoffing at it, thinking, what do you want a set-piece coach for? But they're scoring more goals from set-pieces than anybody else, where if you're looking at Tottenham, are conceding more set-pieces.
So what you're saying is, Paul, despite a fancy new stadium, Spurs are...
Careful, yes.
All the gear, no idea, perhaps?
Harsh. I think that's very harsh. Honestly, you said you would be fine with all this.
Well, Coitie's a little bit delicate. It's been a heck of a weekend, just to rattle through that quickly, because on Friday your dog's nearly died, and on Saturday your dog's left.
The dogs ate coffee capsules, So, it's not like there was any accident.
It was quite traumatic.
It was quite traumatic.
But then your daughter left home, and that was hugely traumatic.
And again, that wasn't like she was just walking out going, I'm storming off. She went to university.
Yeah.
So that's happened. And then, to top it all, the North London derby.
And this is how Ben responds.
Yeah.
Sorry, OK. I'll be more amicable.
And you're supposed to be my friend.
It's early in the season, early days, anything can happen.
You'll be fine. It's only a game. Does that help?
No, at all. Wolves won, Newcastle 2 yesterday. Let's look at a little golf. Should we look at a little golf?
Yeah, let's do some golf.
The Solheim Cup, which we realised has been named after Kirsten Solheim, who was the founder of Ping, who make golf equipment. That's where it comes from. I had no idea. But anyway, we've got a little from the Solheim Cup. Europe have lost the Solheim Cup, which is the female version of the Ryder Cup. It was in Virginia, and USA beat Europe by 15.5 to 12.5 points. Can we see something? I think we've got some putts here. Who's first? This is Charlie Hull. Charlie Hull, she's the one that, likes to smoke fags as she walks around. She beat the world number one, Nelly Korda, 6-4, which was an incredible result, which is 6 up with 4 to play. There's Georgia Hall. She beat Alison Lee, so a great win for her as well, 2 of our finest golfers. So it looked like things were going to turn round, but unfortunately, Alban Valenzuela we're about to hear. Now, this is Alban Valenzuela. If she'd have putted this in, if she'd have holed this putt, she would have won a point for Europe and would have saved the Solheim Cup. And possibly it would have gone on. But look, this is a tricky putt. This is a tricky putt. But no, she's just missed it. And this is the winning putt. And that's Lilia Vu to win the Solheim Cup. Oh, it's a tiddler. She's taking far too long for a very simple putt. She's celebrating there. So a win for the USA. First time in 7 years that the USA have beaten Europe, and there they are enjoying themselves.
Such a great game, golf, isn't it? I feel like I need to get into it. I feel like I need to spend my days on a golf course somewhere.
Are you any good?
No, well, I grew up in a seaside town. I still live there, and there was lots of putting.
Yeah. You're talking about crazy golf?
No, not crazy golf.
You're talking about the ones where you've got... Yeah.
Pitch and putt. So I'm fairly decent at putting, but when it comes to driving, I've been to a few driving ranges, just awful, terrible.
So you're saying your short game is good, your long game is poor?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
OK. Is that in life or is that just in golf?
Everything, just all aspects of life.
OK, fine.
Yeah. Anyway, what's next?
Finally, show jumping. I said it was my dream.
Was it really?
It was my dream to become a show jumper. Ever since I saw Harvey Smith stick his 2 fingers up at the crowd, I knew that was the thing for me. So let's have a look at this. Hobby horsing. They're very serious about this.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, now look at this. Now
Don't laugh, folks. That's some serious hobby horsing. I mean, is this like dance or is this theatre?
Oh, look at lovely trotting there. Look at that. This is dressage. I'm sorry.
Oh, I know.
There's dressage. There's time and style jumping. There's racing. It's all about... There we go. Hey, over the top there. Look at that. Oh, very good. I think so, the horse, though, the horse's head is facing down a little bit there. So this is obviously the racing.
Oh, good technique there. Giddy up horsing.
I tell you could have a very nasty accident if you do the 100 metres with that hobby horse.
She's off the bridle.
Young. Are they just kids? In
No,
which
no.
case
Then
it's fair
the
enough.
thing is, they are young. They're just young hobby horses. They're the future of hobby horsing, but there are hobby horses.
Look how many spectators there are. What's wrong with them all?
I know. Look, I know. It's like get excited. I think they're keeping silent. There we are. Over the top. Over the top. Very nice.
Why can't
very
they just
nice.
get actual horses?
Look, rhythm, speed. It's just. Oh, dear. I think she was a bit flat-footed as she landed there. I wouldn't give her many points, but anyway. So there we are, hobby horsing.
That is bizarre, to say the least.
Still, I reckon you're in contention there for some medals or something, because that didn't look too tricky.
I don't think so. I think probably more over the jumps than the dressage.
Yeah.
Because my bow legs would get in the way, but with the hobby horse catching me legs.
Why is everyone so weird?
I know.
What's
wrong with
what's
the world?
going on?
Stop it. Stop being weird.
Welcome to 2024.
Yeah,
welcome
you're
to
right.
the world, Ben.
Oh. Right, stay with us. Chris Akabusi, Dawn Neeson, we're going to go through the papers with us in just a moment. Don't move a muscle.
I'm Simon Evans, and this is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on.
GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
But let's get stuck in. Prince Harry, he's consulted former aides about a possible partial return to the UK as he seeks to repair his public image, that is according to the Daily Mail.
Who wants him? I'm sorry. This is, of course, he's got his book Spare. The paperback comes out later this year. Now, he's not updating it, but he'll want to promote it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He says he's not doing any interviews, but we're talking about him now, we're talking about Spare.
Yeah.
And is he going to come back with his wife? What about the children? Because apparently it's not safe for his wife and children in this country, according to Harry, even though he took his wife to Colombia, which is much less safe than Britain, in my view.
It's absurd. And anyway, he was able to attend his uncle's funeral quite easily.
He did.
Nobody knew he was coming. He said he wasn't, and then he did. And he was perfectly safe.
And he would have had the same security as every other member of the royal family who attended that event.
Yeah.
But, of course, he didn't speak to his brother at the funeral.
No, he wouldn't, would he?
So if he's trying to fix it, honestly, a funeral is where you should put all differences aside.
Yeah.
Because it's not about you, it's about respect to the person, the family of the person who's gone, which was his uncle. It was Diana's sister's husband had died. So, yet they didn't speak. They didn't speak in the church, they didn't speak when they left the church. Incredible, isn't it?
It's awful because that moment is when you realise that we are all mortal. And at that point, all other things should transcend that, but not...
Well, this move is being branded as Operation Bring Harry In From the Cold, because apparently he's a bit fed up with his life in Montecito. Does that mean with his wife?
I don't know.
Oh, no. Apparently he's dissatisfied with advice from his American-based image expert.
Well, they've had about 10 of them, haven't they? They're on to their number 11.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Joining us now to go through what's making the news in today's papers is Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi. Good morning to you both.
Good morning, guys. How are
We've
you?
got the sinking chair, Chris. Bear with. We'll try and keep you in the shot if we can. And we're going to start with the story that didn't make it into the papers because it's only just been announced in the last few hours. And this is the news that Tito Jackson has died at the age of 71 of the Jackson 5, Michael Jackson's older brother. Chris, sad news, really, because the Jackson 5 were an incredibly uplifting, talented little tribe, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely. So I was just talking to Dawn about...
Tell the story, tell us how, Mum.
Yeah. So when I was a little... So soon as I had to Google some of the songs, and soon, One Bad Apple and Blame It on a Boogie, and all of a sudden, I was transported to the gym at Edmonton County Comprehensive School, playing basketball with all the girls up on a balcony. I was trying my best to impress.
I bet you did. I bet you had some moves.
Oh, no, but, forget about me. They weren't interested in me. They were interested in Dolly, the guy called Kevin Darwin, and Tony Cook, and all these good-looking boys, Mardell, Kevin Creek. And the backdrop was the Jacksons, the Bay City roll-ups. We call them something roll-ups, but Bay City roll-ups. David Cassidy, the Osmonds, and it just all come flooding back.
It's evocative, isn't it? The Jackson music, it's uplifting, evocative.
Absolutely.
And what a little talented band of, 5
Yeah,
they were.
I mean, their dad was quite draconian and really worked them very, very hard. But this was, I was going to say that a happy time. Their music was happy. Michael obviously was worked hard, but seemed very, very happy. The brothers seemed very, very happy. They made these joyous songs that you could get actually involved in, get carried away in. Of course, they had this show, the Jacksons, the show. You could watch the show at the weekend. These were great times. And 70 is no age, and yet it is an age. And all of a sudden, when someone like that goes, you realise, actually, your youth has also gone. So that's what it is for me. I mean, 70 is not an age, but it is an age.
No.
It is the time when people start to...
I think it depends how well you look after yourself up until that point.
Yes, absolutely. Well, he had a heart attack. And another one about this story here is he actually had a heart attack while driving on the motorway. And that's actually one of my fears. You're just driving and someone... veers off the road and bang.
There they are on screen. Look how they're a very good-looking bunch,
Oh,
aren't they?
yeah, look at the photo. I mean, this is definitely 60s and 70s, fellas. Look at the photo, look at the clothes, relaxed, cool, chilling, mods. These guys are happening. They're just about, coming into their puberty, their style. As I say, Tito was the eldest, Randy, Marlon, Jermaine. Michael was an absolute phenomena. And this was before they got into,
Yeah.
where they ended up.
I think when you get to a certain age, like our age group, Chris, it's all about nostalgia, and there's nothing like music or, ironically, a smell that can instantly take you back to your formative years when you were a young teenager. Interesting to get someone who's a younger generation like you, Ben.
Excuse me, why are you...
Like you, Ben and Isabel.
But your touching distance with the Jacksons are completely different to both of you.
Well, you can't remember that. You can't remember the Jackson 5, really?
No, I'm a massive fan of Jackson. Oh, of course, I was born in '89. Of course,
Michael
I was around.
Jackson,
but I love Jackson 5's music.
Yeah,
you know,
I was just playing it at the weekend to my children, and they instantly started dancing. It's impossible not to move. 1969, their biggest hit was "I Want You Back." ABC, 1970, "The Love You Save," "I'll Be There."
I'll Be There.
Santa Claus Is Coming to Town. That was their top 5.
Ben, the song, that was an MJ song, not Jackson 5, wasn't it? That was MJ.
Yeah.
I think my favourite tune from there is... you just said it. Where is it?
ABC?
No.
I Want You Back. I'll Be There.
I'll Be There.
Yeah, I'll Be There, yeah. So ABC, I think that was a theme song for their show, wasn't it? ABC.
Oh, goodness.
Beautiful
Well, it will trigger a whole round of nostalgia, as you say, and feel good.
I've had Chris singing for the entire...
We need to hear this.
Oh, no, you don't. You definitely don't need to hear that.
I was saying to Isabel earlier, I'm not sure if every generation says this, but I look at pop stars today and I think they're not a scrap on, say, Michael Jackson or the stars of my era. Is that just a generational thing?
It may be, but you're right, because I then started thinking about people I didn't particularly like, but everyone liked, Bowie, Led Zeppelin, Tangerine Dream, Floyd. These were not my style, but they had style. And you had your kids who were your rockers, you had your kids who were your poppies and stuff. It was just brilliant. Yeah, I think that it's probably nostalgia. I'm sure the youngsters
you get to a certain age and it really kicks in, doesn't it?
Oh dear. Right, let's talk about the Prime Minister. He's off to Italy to meet probably not his natural bedfellow, Giorgia Meloni, but he's saying he wants to learn lessons from her sort of hard-line approach to what is obviously a huge challenge for Italy, Dawn. It's on the front of a number of the papers. The Eye we're focusing on this morning. And their solution is to process asylum seekers in Albania.
Well, that's one of the solutions. They've got 2 solutions. The Albanian processing centre hasn't opened yet. It is set to open, but the main reason that there's been a drop of 62% migrants into Italy has been that Giorgia Meloni has paid money to the Tunisian and Libyan governments to stop the migrants leaving their coastlines in the boats in the first place. And as I said, it's fallen by 80%, but Tunisia was paid 105 million by Italy to boost its border security and stop the boats leaving in the first place, which seems to be working. Now, we've already given how many million to the French?
$500 million a year.
Yeah, and that doesn't seem to be working for us to stop the boats leaving France. So
because they're not even trying. The Sun did a great story of all the French patrol groups all down the working men's club sinking sambucas when they're meant to be stopping the boats.
So, I mean, it seems to work in Italy, and, she has been criticised for it, especially the human rights of the migrants that are attempting to leave that get turned back and then sort of end up in Tunisia and have been left to die because the Tunisians and Libyans aren't looking after them as well as they should.
So I think, though, say you've got different governments. So, like, the French... if they're going to do anything, try to go to legal routes. We do not know how the Libyans and the Tunisians are ensuring that the gang lords do not, send their people...
Yeah, but they're just stopping the boats leaving in the first place.
Yeah, exactly, but we don't know how they're doing that, what's going on, what sort of tactics are being used in order to ensure people comply that you will not, because I've just been given a massive wedge by Italy to ensure you do not.
Yeah.
So people operate in different places, different ways. So.
What's certainly clear is that there is a shift now, whereas it used to be discussed mainly by perhaps the right wing how to tackle this problem. Now it's becoming recognised from all spheres that we're reaching unsustainable levels of migration. You've got a country like Germany now talking about, well, they have closed their borders.
They have literally closed their borders, and they've just expelled 24 migrants back to Afghanistan.
Yeah, exactly. Without talking that, we heard about that after it had happened.
Yes.
It's the only Western country even having any interaction with the Taliban.
Holland as well.
Yeah,
the Netherlands
is changing.
Yeah, Austria,
perhaps
France, Italy, Norway, Slovenia, Sweden, Finland, all closing their borders to migrants crossing in. And yet, when we try and do it, we have a problem.
Chris, let's talk about Putin. David Lammy was doing the media rounds yesterday, the Foreign Secretary, and he was talking about not being bullied by a dictator's threats. Do we need to take these threats seriously? Are we right to be dithering on whether or not to allow Ukraine to use ours or even the West's missiles without the say-so of the United States? This is in the Mirror today.
Yeah, so definitely we are right to be dithering. I like the fact that, when I say like, loosely said, when Mr. Lammy says that Putin is grandstanding, and then he goes on to start grandstanding, talking about, don't you dare do that, you said we weren't going to send our boats, we've sent our boats, you said we wouldn't send missiles, we've sent our missiles, you said... We've got to be very, very careful, because if you corner a dog, you corner a rat, sooner or later that dog or that rat comes out attacking. Now, quite clearly, I'm not getting into the Ukraine-Russia thing itself. It's gone on for quite a time now. But quite clearly, we are now more involved than we were told we were going to be involved. And my fear is that at some stage, Mr. Putin is left with no other avenue but to attack either a NATO country or us ourselves.
The thing is, I don't understand, why hasn't he done it before? Every time we do something, he says, right, that's it, I'm going to... But when we use these very missiles in Crimea, which he regards as part of Russia...
Correct.
There's a lot of rhetoric, but nothing actually happened.
Yeah, but it was the first time, isn't there?
But how long do you want to keep that gamble up? You are literally playing Russian roulette, hoping this guy, who everybody agrees is a despot, isn't going to push the red button this time.
Exactly.
And also, you've got David Lammy, the headline in the Mirror, saying David Lammy has warned Vladimir Putin. I mean, those couple of words, David Lammy warning Vladimir Putin.
The Foreign Secretary, come on.
He is now.
He's the Foreign Secretary. All more the reason to pipe down, my friend, because you're talking about grandstanding, and you yourself are grandstanding. And it's our children, ultimately, that are going to go over there to fight this war, not your children while you are there in office.
Yeah.
And ultimately, nobody survives a nuclear war.
OK, all right. Chris Akabusi, Dawn Neeson, thank you. You'll be back in the next hour. Weather-wise, any idea what's going on?
Well, I think it's going to warm up this week. I've heard rumours of 24, 25 degrees, at least in the south of the country. And to be honest, after the sort of wet wash, whatever you want to call it, last week was miserable. I'm here for it. Here's Anna Krizik.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got high pressure building this week and that means plenty of fine and dry weather and plenty of that warm autumnal sunshine too. It will be quite a foggy start though, particularly in northwestern parts of England and Wales, so do take care for the Monday morning commute. But that fog will eventually lift and break through the course of the morning. And as high pressure builds, that leaves plenty of dry and fine weather around and feeling quite warm where you do catch the sunshine. There will be a build of higher cloud into the northwest through the course of the day, and perhaps some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just clipping the Outer Hebrides. But otherwise, plenty of fine and dry weather and some late evening sunshine to end the day too. Now, as we progress into Monday evening, that high cloud in the northwest will push in more and more into western parts of Scotland, and we'll start to see a few more of those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the west too. But elsewhere, it is going to remain dry, that high cloud pushing into Northern Ireland, but across northern England, Wales and parts of the south, plenty of clear skies. But that does mean it is going to be turning chilly as soon as the sun goes down, and we're likely to see further patches of mist and fog overnight too. That high cloud will continue to build into the northwest through the course of the night. We can see that rain and drizzle pushing into the Northern Isles, perhaps a little bit heavy at times. And we'll see a strengthening breeze in the northwest too. But elsewhere, where we see those lighter winds, those cooler skies, that is where things are going to be turning cold. And we're likely to see that mist and fog develop in those rural spots. So once again, there may be some mist and fog to start the day on Tuesday, but as the day warms up, it'll lift and break. And we've still got high pressure dominating, which means plenty of those sunny spells. We do still have that high cloud continuing in the north, and this may be thick enough to produce some rain and drizzle at times. But away from these areas, once again, feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. Bye for now.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
You could be the duck.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
They catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Belfast, the A12 Westlink is closed southbound from Grosvenor Road to the M1 after an accident with queues from the M2. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way at the Ashby to Laund turn between Sleaford and Lincoln after an accident. On the M6 in Staffordshire, 2 out of 3 lanes are closed northbound where a car's overturned between junctions 15 and 16 near Stoke-on-Trent with queues in both directions. The M1 in Bedfordshire is closed northbound from junction 12, the Toddington and Flitwick turn, to 13 at Bedford after an accident. There are long delays each way towards there, and as you divert, the A1M in Hertfordshire is partly blocked southbound by an accident just after junction 8 at Stevenage, with queues much of the way back to junction 9 at Letchworth. In London, Mollison Avenue in Enfield is closed because of fire services activity, and trains have been stopped between Cardiff Queen Street and both Corriton and Heath High Level because of a points failure. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website gbnews.com.
Good morning. A second assassination attempt on Trump.
The former president was playing golf near his Florida residence when the Secret Service spotted the gunman hiding in bushes.
58-year-old man has been taken into custody.
So Keir Starmer says he's interested in Italy's migration deal with Albania as he prepares to meet Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni in Rome today.
And the Tory leadership race, Robert Jenrick has said we need to slash more than 100,000 civil service jobs to achieve a small state that works.
And elsewhere, former BBC newsreader Hugh Edwards is set to be sentenced today at Westminster Magistrates Court. That's after he pled guilty to making indecent images of children.
Sales of electric blankets are soaring as pensioners face a freezing winter without a fuel allowance. The retailer John Lewis has seen an increase of 173%.
And in the sport, and being a professional and completely neutral, Tottenham Hotspur lost to Arsenal, at home for the 3rd time in a row to a towering Gabriel Header. Oscar Piastri won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which puts McLaren at the top of the Constructors' Championship for the first time in a decade, and more from the German Hobby Horse Championships.
Hello, good morning. Well, after a chilly start, there's going to be plenty of dry and fine weather around. There will be some fog in places, though, for the Monday morning commute, so join me later for all the details.
It's just gone 8 o'clock. I'm Isabel Webster.
And I'm Ben Leo, and this is GB News Breakfast.
Can't believe we're here again, but just less than 2 months on, and a man has now been arrested and an assault rifle has been recovered after another apparent assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump.
Yeah, the news broke last night. The former president was playing golf on his course in Florida when gunshots were fired and his Secret Service detail opened fire on the armed suspect.
Well, the gunman left an AK-47 style assault rifle. This is something that can fire 600 rounds per minute. That was found at the scene. He fled away in a vehicle but was later arrested and is in custody now.
And, of course, it comes just 2 months after Donald Trump was shot at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania, infamously hit in the ear, blood pouring down his cheek, and he survived, arguably, by a matter of inches.
Yeah. Well, let's speak now to the chair of the Republicans overseas, Greg Swenson. This is a really frightening situation, Greg, where I actually fear for Donald Trump's life. You know, we've got another 7 weeks, 8 weeks of this going on. This is the extent of the hatred that some people clearly feel towards him. And yet, if there is a successful assassination of him, this will cause untold damage to democracy in America.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of it is, and he said this last week in the debate, maybe clumsily, but he did say that, you know, the absolute hatred on the left encourages these people. It might be a lone wolf. It might just be unrelated, isolated incidents. But, you know, I think this whole threat to democracy thing should probably stop because things are only going to get worse before they get better.
Well, they said that after the first assassination attempts in Pennsylvania. There was about 24 hours, maybe slightly more if you're being generous, of unity and people like Kamala Harris asking for the rhetoric to be toned down. But then, you know, within a couple of days, we're back to normal. People calling Donald Trump, as you said, a threat to democracy, literally Hitler. I mean, what do people expect when that kind of language is being used?
Yeah, and you'll see that complaint on the left, you know, that, you know, Trump is this threat to democracy and, you know, it's the end of the world if he's reelected. And people have to be reminded that he was president for 4 years and things seem to work out pretty well.
Well, let's talk about Ryan Ruth. This is a 58-year-old man who was arrested after this vehicle was stopped. He voted for Trump in 2016, we understand. But this is somebody who had a lot of issues, had interactions with the law.
Right.
The FBI are calling this a success because Trump is still living and breathing. But it looks to my expert eye as though there were a few errors in letting this guy wander the streets with an automatic weapon.
Exactly. Complete breakdown. The golf course should have been closed. And I think President Trump needs the same protection level that President Biden has. Even though he's just a candidate, he is the former president. Biden is famous for withholding Secret Service protection. He did it for, you know, he finally broke down with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and approved Secret Service protection only after Trump was shot in the ear in July. So, you know, I think that the president needs to step up here and authorize full protection for President Trump.
Hasn't RFK Jr.'s Secret Service detail now been rescinded since he dropped out?
I don't think so.
Still got it?
Yeah, and because in theory he's still on the ballot in many states. He's only really dropped out of the swing states, so it's kind of a, you know, it's a bit complicated. But
politically, what will this do for Donald Trump? Any boost in the polls? Will he maybe get will he get the message again and stick with the unity line?
I hope so, because he needed that, right? It was a bad week for President Trump last week, and I think, you know, you saw the bump after the first assassination attempt, and there was all this unity at the convention. So hopefully this will be the cap on a difficult week. And yeah, there might be some sympathy. I don't think it's worth 5 points, but there'll be some sympathy for sure.
And Greg, try and explain to us Brits one more time why Americans cannot get a grip of this man-made problem. If man makes the problem, man can solve the problem. I just don't accept the argument that there is a constitutional reason that they cannot stop gun crime in the United States. Well, not a country with this crisis.
Well, they have to enforce the law, and the problem is that the gun laws that are on the books aren't enforced, right? So you have this kind of movement, you know, they call it bail reform or cash bail reform. All of these Soros-appointed DAs, district attorneys, that have been elected with Soros money have decided to not actually prosecute criminals, right? So they've reduced felony gun convictions or gun violations to misdemeanors, and they let people on the street the next day.
What about the power of the NRA, though, in all of this?
Oh, it's not what it used to be. I mean, they're not even a top 100 donor in terms of political influence. So that's really not a thing. And, you know, look, gun laws have to be applied, and they're not, right? So we don't need more gun laws because we have plenty on the books. We have so much more restriction than we did a generation ago, and yet gun violence continues.
Yeah, all right, Greg Swenson, thank you. I remember walking to in a shooting range in Texas. They just took my name, didn't want my passport, and I was shooting AKs and M16s and all sorts.
Goodness.
Easy, 2
Never
minutes.
even seen an AK, I don't think. Right, let us know your thoughts this morning on all of the topics we cover, not least this one. I genuinely, like I said at the beginning, I'm worried about Trump. I think that he's a target and, you know, we've got a very contentious election not far off in the future. I hope I'm wrong.
Sorry, Greg, just in 5 seconds, will Trump continue to campaign?
Definitely.
Not hide away in his base?
No, not at all.
Okay.
You saw it the last time as well, so he'll be on the trail.
Thanks, Greg. OK, now to UK politics, where Sir Keir Starmer has said he's interested in learning about how Italy sent migrants to Albania to process their asylum claims.
Well, this is ahead of the Prime Minister's visit to Rome. He's going to be meeting the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, today.
And it comes, of course, just one day after the Home Office revealed 801 illegal migrants crossed the Channel on Saturday, which is a record number since Labour came into power.
I suppose Christopher Hope, our political editor, this morning joins us. I suppose, Christopher, this is a sign, really, of how defining this issue is going to be for Starmer, the fact that he might be taking policy ideas from a right-wing leader in Europe. You know, Meloni is so far from his natural bedfellow.
Yeah, that's right. Morning, Ben. Morning, Isabel, here from a kind of overcast but calm Brighton here for the Liberal Democrat conference, but more of that in a second. That's right, certainly Sir Keir Starmer is over in Rome today, meeting with Giorgia Meloni. She came to power, of course, on a pledge to stop the boats with the Navy and the like. Now, that never happened, but we have seen numbers fall by around 64%, the crossings. There's a much more tough approach on dealing with the issue there across from Africa into Italy. We're here today from Sir Keir Starmer. He's appointed Martin Hewitt, who's the next chair of the National Police Chiefs Council, as the new head of the Border Security Command. That job's been open since a previous holder of that post, an Army general, held it. This new guy, Martin Hewitt, is someone focusing on law enforcement. He's a policeman. And it shows the change in focus of Sir Keir Starmer, working more closely with European colleagues on enforcement. So they're going to be doing more undercover tactics, covert surveillance. That's different to the former holder of that post, who was more of a kind of naval figure, someone who could patrol the coast with naval vessels. So it's about deeper relationships. But that's right, Sir Keir Starmer is thousands of miles away from here today. He's in Rome meeting with Giorgia Meloni, and they're looking at one idea which we had discussed before, and we heard language from Sir Keir Starmer during the election. They are looking at some form of offshore processing. Now, that is different to Rwanda. Rwanda's plan, as we know from Sir Keir Starmer, is a gimmick. He says it was an idea to deport illegal arrivals here to Rwanda and then process them and make them stay there. Instead, they're looking at an Albania scheme, maybe, that their scheme gets up and running later this year, expectedly, and that'll be to process the applications there and then bring them to the UK if they pass all the tests. So it's different. It's not a deportation plan, but an offshore processing plan.
Asking this morning the question, why couldn't we just slightly adapt Rwanda to process them there, not keep them there, but just process them there? The plans are in place, we paid for the facilities. Why couldn't Labour and Sir Keir Starmer just slightly adapt it and save all the hard work that's been done and the money wasted?
That is a brilliant question, Ben, and that's a question that many viewers and listeners of GB News might want to know the answer to, because we have spent around £200 million of our taxpayers' money in Rwanda creating the hostels, the places where they can stay while they're being processed there. Why not just tweak the plan into one of offshore processing rather than deportation? He hasn't done that. They saw it. He said it was a gimmick. Labour said it never worked. It was never tried to work, of course. 2 individuals were flown voluntarily by James Cleverly, the former Home Secretary, to Rwanda. He did that to prove that it's safe in Rwanda, that there's no harm coming to people going there. That was a test case to show it's safe. But the idea, totally right, Ben, why not just change that plan a bit, rather than allow the Germans, as we hear from last week, they may start using the infrastructure we built with our money for their plan.
Thanks very much indeed.
Lucky so-and-so being in Brighton, my neck of the woods.
Yes.
Shame the sun's not out there.
Yeah,
Get yourself some donuts.
The Den conference going on the next couple of days.
All right.
OK, let's turn our attention, shall we, to Hugh Edwards. It's a big day for him. The former BBC newsreader is back in court today for sentencing. He pleaded guilty, of course, to making indecent images of children.
The former presenter has admitted to 3 charges over the alleged activity between December 2020 and April 2022.
He resigned from the BBC in April and has recently offered his services back up to charities and to non-profit organisations on LinkedIn.
We're now joined by GB News Home and Security Editor Mark White. Mark, good morning. A staggering fall of grace, to say the least, a bit of an understatement. What kind of sentence are we expecting for Hugh Edwards today?
Well, there's always the possibility of a jail term, but to be honest, I think that is probably unlikely. A few factors to take into account that point to that. The fact that the magistrate did not refer this up to the Crown Court, where, you know, indictable offences of a year or more in prison can be handed down. It is going to be dealt with by a magistrate's court, where 6 months is the maximum sentence that would be handed down. There's also to take into account the fact that he is a first-time offender, he is of previous good character, and he's someone that pleaded guilty at the earliest opportunity, that first appearance at Westminster Magistrates Court in July when he was charged with these offences. But having said that, they are very significant and serious offences. He was sent more than or almost 400 explicit images over WhatsApp by a now convicted paedophile, and 41 of those images were sexually explicit images of children, and 7 of them were in what is classified as Category A, the most serious of offences against children, involving children younger than 15, and 2 images related to a child aged, they believe, because they've no way of really knowing, they don't know who this child was, but they believe between 7 and 9 years old. So there's no getting away from just how serious these charges are. There's no coming back for, obviously, for Hugh Edwards in terms of any broadcasting career. There are serious questions, of course, for the BBC to answer about how they handled this whole situation after he was arrested in November of last year. Senior executives at the BBC were aware of that arrest, but continued paying the presenter some £200,000 until he was actually charged in June, actually.
What about these sort of positions he's offering himself for on LinkedIn, sort of trying to resurrect some sort of career? What more do we know about that? And you know, will people want him for charity roles?
Well, you wouldn't think so, no. And we understand that those messages on LinkedIn, those profile changes, have now disappeared from that LinkedIn site. So quite what was going on there, whether it was him, whether it was someone acting on his behalf, whether it was bad advice or whatever, we just don't know at this stage. But no, as I say, there's no way that he's ever coming back to a broadcasting career, and no charity or any other good cause is going to want to align itself with a sexual offender.
Yeah. OK, Mark White, thanks for that. I think he's going to be sentenced from around 11 o'clock, so stay tuned to GB News for that to find out what he gets. A really sort of, well, heart-wrenching letter in The Sun today on the front page from one of Hugh Edwards' victims, their mother, basically telling the former BBC man about the damage he's caused their poor son.
What do you think about him wearing sunglasses? I feel like it's a sort of attempt to hide from the gaze of the cameras, but almost to glamorise himself. I don't know whether you think he's trying to look cool, and I just think he needs to take those glasses off. Yes, it was the height of summer. If he wears them today, I personally think he should lower the glasses, look the cameras in the eye, face up to what he's done. But
well, they say the eyes are the windows to the soul, of course. So
hiding those then.
Yeah, and also the other big talking point with this, he's still going to get paid $300,000 a year of licence fee money in a pension. And Tim Davie has already said there's nothing we can do about it. You don't watch The Morning Show, do you, on Apple TV?
No,
I've asked you many times.
I do not.
I love it. It's a TV series in America about breakfast show. One of the stars gets up to some sexual impropriety, and he loses everything because there's a clause in the contract about moral conduct. And Tim Davie has basically said BBC stars, or at least Hugh Edwards, didn't have a morality clause, and that's why he's allowed to keep $300k a year of licence fee money, regardless of whether he's banged up for, say, I don't know, 5-10 years today.
Let's find out. It'll be an interesting one, and we'll have full coverage, as Ben says, right here on GB News. But with the time at 8:16, here are the other stories making headlines this morning.
Tito Jackson, the eldest brother of Michael Jackson, has died, aged 70. He passed away yesterday from a suspected heart attack while driving from New Mexico to Oklahoma. Former Jackson family manager Steve Manning confirmed the death. However, an official cause has not yet been determined.
More than 10 million people are waiting at least 4 weeks to see GPs. That's up by a fifth, according to research by the Liberal Democrats. Their leader, Sir Ed Davey, has said everyone should be able to see a GP when they need one and blamed the Tories for the long waiting times. He pledged the party would aim for everyone to have the right to see their doctor within 7 days or 24 hours if it was urgent.
And to the Emmys, where Baby Reindeer won in 4 of the major categories last night. The hugely popular but highly contentious British TV drama's creator and star, Scottish comedian Richard Gadd, won 3 of those for acting, writing and executive producing the show. Other winners included Elizabeth Debicki for her portrayal of Princess Diana in The Crown, and Shogun became the first non-English language show to be named Best Drama.
Time now for an update on the forecast with Honor Rizek.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got high pressure building this week and that means plenty of fine and dry weather and plenty of that warm autumnal sunshine too. It will be quite a foggy start though, particularly in northwestern parts of England and Wales, so do take care for the Monday morning commute. But that fog will eventually lift and break through the course of the morning. And as high pressure builds, that leaves plenty of dry and fine weather around and feeling quite warm where you do catch the sunshine. There will be a build of higher cloud into the northwest through the course of the day, and perhaps some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just clipping the Outer Hebrides. But otherwise, plenty of fine and dry weather and some late evening sunshine to end the day too. Now, as we progress into Monday evening, that high cloud in the northwest will push in more and more into western parts of Scotland, and we'll start to see a few more of those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the west too. But elsewhere, it is going to remain dry, that high cloud pushing into Northern Ireland, but across northern England, Wales and parts of the south, plenty of clear skies. But that does mean it is going to be turning chilly as soon as the sun goes down, and we're likely to see further patches of mist and fog overnight too. That high cloud will continue to build into the northwest through the course of the night. We can see that rain and drizzle pushing into the Northern Isles, perhaps a little bit heavy at times, and we'll see a strengthening breeze in the northwest too. But elsewhere, where we see those lighter winds, those cooler skies, that is where things are going to be turning cold, and we're likely to see that mist and fog develop in those rural spots. So once again, there may be some mist and fog to start the day on Tuesday, but as the day warms up, it'll lift and break, and we've still got high pressure dominating, which means plenty of those sunny spells. We do still have that high cloud continuing in the north, and this may be thick enough to produce some rain and drizzle at times, but away from these areas, once again, feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Right, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway, and it's a pretty good one.
Yeah, £36,000 in your bank account, £3 a month.
Yeah, tax-free as well, but you have to be in it to win it. Here's how.
This is your luck. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
EasyJet is launching a new recruitment drive focused on attracting cabin crew members over 50 and those even considering retirement.
Well, the initiative is called Returnships and is inspired by research that suggests that 75% of people over 50 years old believe that now is the ideal time to embark on a new career.
Joining us now to discuss what it takes to embark on a second career as cabin crew is Helen Williams. Good morning, Helen.
Hi, good morning, Helen.
Welcome. Just touching down in our studio.
It is. I've had a few days off and now I'm here.
So you are now cabin crew.
I am.
What inspired you to get into it? What did you do before? How did it all come around?
Oh, so when I graduated, I took an office job with my grad scheme, and that job lasted 6 months, and I started working for a European carrier. I did just over 5 years at that European carrier and had an absolutely fabulous time. I then went on to a wet lease operation with an Irish carrier and another mainline UK carrier. I then decided to have time out. I had a business, I had a family, I had children, and last autumn I decided, why not? Let's go back and do it all again. So returning to that European carrier that I'd worked at when I was in my early 20s.
And what is that like for you now, returning that bit older, having that life experience, having your children? Do you think that's been a benefit to you?
It's absolutely been a benefit. I mean, the amount of parents that thank me for helping me with their small children when they're crying on a flight. I am that person now.
When you went back for a second time,
Yeah.
did you notice more sort of older people amongst your sort of colleagues?
I did. So when I returned onto my initial course in March of this year, just over half the course were over the age of 30.
Wow.
Which was absolutely phenomenal. And I was expecting to return and be with a lot of younger, 18, 19, 24. I was expecting to be that dinosaur. And that first day of training, to find out that I wasn't the dinosaur, you have no idea how exciting that was. And they've gone on, that particular group, to be phenomenal crew members.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Now we're talking about Digital Isolation, a charity that supports older people learning some digital skills. Say that lots of pensioners are struggling with this, especially around the issue of trying to apply for pension credit, which we know is a big issue at the moment because of this winter fuel means testing.
Yeah, everything seems so geared up for the digital age, and there's lots of elderly people I see in the banks that they're saying, you know, have you got the app? Have you got a phone? And they're saying, well, no. Yeah. It's kind of like you're forcing them to do it. The government, because of this, is encouraging over 65s to apply for pension credit so they can continue receiving winter fuel payments worth, of course, up to £300.
But a third of pensioners don't even have a computer. Well, our East Midlands reporter, Will Hollis, joined a digital skills hub in Lincolnshire and has been looking into this.
We'll see as we pull it closer and closer, we can get really close.
In the digital age, the ageing are getting to grips with a changing world.
I don't do YouTube or TikTok or anything like that. I haven't even got a clue what it is.
At Rugby's Town Hall in the heart of rural Lincolnshire,
4 and 1, 41.
the weekly social club is keeping the area's older residents connected.
Bingo!
Not just in person, online too. The drop-in sessions, organised by charity Links Digital, give support for online banking and appointments. Now, help applying for pension credit is also a priority.
If you put the pension credit, this page will come up.
Yvonne is one of 10 million pensioners who could lose the winter fuel allowance. Labour is scrapping the universal benefit as part of a £22 billion saving plan, while encouraging older people to apply for pension credit.
I've had to get my bank statements and everything, and they're going to go through it again to see if I can apply.
The government uses an online calculator where people can check if they're eligible for the benefit. Project manager Rich says some pensioners are struggling to apply without support.
We all know things are going to be cut down, and we're here to try and help them, you know, and it's great them saying you can apply for things. There's a checker they can do online, but it's an online checker, so, you know, those people who are not online couldn't do it.
Age is one of the biggest contributors to digital exclusion. A third of people over 65 are offline. Councillor William Gray is portfolio holder for Better Ageing at East Lindsey District Council.
often in rural communities, they're older communities that haven't followed the trends, haven't been upskilled as much as other communities have. If they are left behind, loneliness, isolation, ill health, unfortunately, and it can just add an aid deprivation, and that's what we want to avoid.
The government says some 880,000 pensioners are eligible for the credit and can apply over the phone or by post as well as online. The digital age offers a world of virtual opportunity, but the digital divide is enhancing real-world problems.
If it all goes wrong, I shut it down and start again.
Will Hollis, GB News in Rugby.
Well, we've been looking into this, and in a GB News exclusive, we can reveal that there's been a surge in the sales of heated blankets, and this has happened just as elderly people are set to lose their winter fuel payments due to Labour's cuts.
So John Lewis alone saw a 173% increase in heated blanket sales in comparison to the same period last year, and as Isabel said, that was directly after news of the winter fuel payment being scrapped broke.
Well, let's speak to the Chief Executive of Good Things Foundation, Helen Milner, about all of this. Helen, you know, is the fact that electric blanket sales going up actually a good thing? This means that people are switched on to the problems that the winter might hold, that they might have some defence against it, or is it a real indictment of a Labour government that they aren't going to be able to, you know, support elderly people in their hour of need?
Good morning, by the way.
Morning.
I think the sale of electric blankets may well be because we've had this cold snap because of the Arctic weather coming in from the north. However, I think it's an absolute reality that, as your clip said, that over 800,000 elderly people who are eligible for the winter fuel allowance, who can get pension credits, are struggling to apply. And so what is absolutely essential at the moment is that all of those older people who are eligible for pension credits do apply and do get what's owed to them. The benefits are owed to them. And the average that people will get through pension credits is about £78 a week. So that's definitely going to make a massive difference to people who are really struggling.
Helen, there is this assumption, isn't there, that elderly people should just have the apps and have the smartphones and have the email accounts. And I've mentioned to Isabel during the introduction, I've been in banks, for example, where staff just assume these people, and even younger people, to be fair, they just assume people want these apps and want to be immersed in the digital world. What can organisations like yours do to encourage people to, I guess, educate themselves on technology and make that first step into the digital world, which is very intimidating at times?
Absolutely, and that's what we do at Good Things Foundation. So we're a national charity. We work all across the whole of the UK. And in your clip there, you had Links Digital, and they're a member of what we call the National Digital Inclusion Network, which is a network of local charities, small local community organisations, food banks, job centres, old people's clubs. So any organisation at that local level helping people, and everything that we do for the organisations and for the people that they help is free. And we can help with skills. So we've got an online learning platform, and forgive me that that's online, but you can get help in one of these digital inclusion hubs, one of these local charities. You can get that support. And also we provide, because people who are struggling might not be able to afford a device, a smartphone or a laptop or a tablet, and so we also refurbish those. So businesses and councils give us their old devices and we refurbish those and give those to people. Almost 20,000 people so far we've able to support, and with SIM cards as well. So we have something where we can, through these local organisations, provide people with free mobile connectivity. So that sounds a bit jargony probably for people who are offline, but basically what it means is we can help you get connected for free and also get those skills that you need through the National Digital Inclusion Network and through Good Things Foundation.
Because we talk so much these days about the harms of digital gadgets, particularly on the young. And I'm just reading in the paper today, 4 in 10 people aged 12 to 43 say they find it's hard to meet new friends in this digital age. And people with thousands of followers on social media admit that they only have 6 people in their life that they truly connect with. And yet the power of these tools for older people to connect, to break that physical isolation, is huge. And it's about trying to strike the balance. And it feels like we've got it too far one way with the young and not enough in the other way way for the older. Why aren't we able to bridge that gap and sort of make it a bit more level?
It's so important that, particularly, say, older people understand that this isn't just something that young people do, and it isn't something to be frightened of. Actually, research shows that the single thing that will most encourage older people to actually get these new skills, to go and get that support, is connecting with friends and family. I met an old chap recently in a local digital inclusion hub, and he had just got online for the first time, and his granddaughter was sending him photos of her doing her whatever she was doing, and he said it was the first time he'd had a photo from her, because now the other thing in the digital age is that his granddaughter wasn't taking photos and taking them down the shop and getting prints and sending them to her granddad, but now he was online. She could send him photos of just normal things that he wanted. Hadn't actually seen a photo of her for ages. And of course, we talk often about people connecting with family in Australia, but often families live 20, 50, 100 miles away in the UK. So it's not just about far-flung relatives, it's about relatives and family members they've got in this country too.
Yeah, OK, Helen Milner, Chief Exec of the Good Things Foundation, thank you for joining us this morning. Yeah, technology does my head in. I mean, I'm quite tech-savvy, and it absolutely does my head in half the time, let alone, the elderly generation. I simply can't be bothered with it, but anyway.
But it is our responsibility to help our older relatives with it. I mean, I definitely my mum always comes to me going, I can't work out how to do this.
Bless Mama.
I send her something on Instagram and she doesn't know what she's doing, so I do little tutorials from time to time to keep her in the game.
I've told my mum about 1,000,000 times how to copy and paste web links, and still doesn't. Bless you, Mum.
My mum still emails me constantly, and I'm like, Mum, don't send me a screenshot on email, just WhatsApp it to me. But anyway, shouldn't mock. It's important we take them with us.
Let us know what you think. gbnews.com/your-say. Yeah, if you're
online. The letter.
You must be. Still to come, Paul Coates will be here with all the latest sports news, including the bombshell result. Arsenal 1-0 against Spurs in the North London derby. Back in a tick.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Belfast, the A12 is closed southbound along the West Link between Grosvenor Road and the M1 after an accident. There are queues from the M2 and long delays as you divert. In North Yorkshire, the A63 is closed northbound at Ledsham after an accident causing queues. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there's a lane closed on the southbound entry slip road at junction 33 near Rotherham, where someone's broken down. There are queues towards there. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way at the Ashby de la Laund turn between Sleaford and Lincoln after an accident. On the M6 in Staffordshire, there's a lane closed northbound with a car overturn between junctions 15 and 16 near Stoke-on-Trent, causing delays. The M1 in Bedfordshire is closed northbound from junction 12, the Toddington and Flitwick turn to 13 at Bedford after an accident with long delays in both directions. And the A1M in Hertfordshire is closed southbound between junctions 8 and 7 near Stevenage after an accident with queues from junction 10 at Baldock.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your-say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mark Dolan tonight is your weekend dose of news, debate and entertainment.
This sounds like a wild conspiracy theory.
Don't miss My Big Opinion, Mark Meets, and My Take at 10.
Democracy is a funny old thing.
And we don't do boring, not on my watch. I just won't have it.
Let's go and get another glass of that bubbly. You've earned it.
That's Mark Dolan tonight, Saturday and Sunday, 9 to 11, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Are the newspapers getting you down?
My wife didn't divorce me that month.
Struggling to separate the wheat from the chaff?
I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
Sportsman Paul Coyte is here, and he's very, very disappointed after a tough weekend in the North London derby.
Yes,
your beloved Spurs. What happened to them?
Well, they lost. I did have a message, actually, that did make me smile, that came through, that someone sent to me on Twitter, and it's Danny Britton, and Danny put, "Morning, Paul. Pleased you turned up for work today after the Arsenal win yesterday. Remember, you didn't make it last time." So I remember the last North London derby when Arsenal beat Spurs. I wasn't in the next morning, and I thought, I know what's going to happen. Everybody's going to think that I actually haven't turned up on purpose. But actually, what happened? See, look, my chair's going down now. But it was because I was on holiday. So Danny, that was.
I didn't watch the game. Was it? I mean, if I had my way yesterday, I would have been sat at home watching the F1 and the North London derby. But I was dragged out on family duties. Okay. How did Spurs play? Did they
Spurs played. I mean, it started all right. Spurs, the thing is, it was a lot of going forward and thinking, yeah, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of effort there, but it's just the quality at the other end of the pitch. Midfield is great, defence was a little bit wobbly and up front, but Arsenal, although they had Odegaard missing and also Declan Rice missing, they were very good. They were very professional. They went to Spurs to do a job, and that's exactly what they did. It was like the old Tony Adams days when Gabriel scores the winner, which was from a corner, and the thing is, they're very good at set pieces, whereas on the other side of the coin, you've got Spurs who are not terribly good at defending set pieces. So that's how it went, and Arsenal did what they had to do and went out there and won.
1-0 to the Arsenal.
1-0 to the Arsenal, the old song being heard again. The other game, Wolves 1, Newcastle 2. So Wolves, they're in all sorts of trouble at the moment. In the bottom three, Newcastle, though, unbeaten. So a good result for them.
What about Man City? They're in a bit of financial hot water, aren't they? And this is all coming home now to deal with. Is it actually going to touch the sides for them? Because they're such a wealthy club.
Well, this is the problem. It's one thing being cash rich, but it's how you spend it and whether you're breaking financial fair play rules. So the hearing into Manchester City's 115 charges that they've got against them. This has been spoken about for quite some time. When we've seen other clubs being docked points, people are saying, well, what about Manchester City? Well, the court case, the actual hearing begins today. So it all goes back to 2009, 2018. And these, I've just got numbers here. There's 54 charges for failure to provide accurate financial information, 14 failure to provide accurate details for player and manager payments. It goes on, it's all about payments, failure to comply with UEFA rules, breaching Premier League's profit and sustainability rules, 35 charges of failure to cooperate with Premier League investigations. But when we look at that, and Pep Guardiola saying, well, I hope this is all going to be done and dusted, I'm sure everything's going to be fine, it'll all be over with very soon. Everyone is going to have to be gone through with a fine-tooth comb, so how long this is going to go, we don't know.
If and when they are found guilty, innocent until proven guilty, but if they are found guilty, what are the repercussions? Relegation?
Well, points deduction is one thing, but I think every other major club is looking at it thinking, well, we want more. It happened to Juventus many years ago that they were relegated, about 20 years ago that they were relegated. So who knows?
That was for match fixing.
Who knows? That was, but it was breaking rules and it was match fixing. So who knows how far the Premier League will go, and then, of course, there'll be an appeal after that. So we'll just have to see. But this is going to be a long, drawn-out court case.
OK, we've got time for one more quickly. What's your choice?
What do you want to do? Do you want to do it?
F1?
Yeah, let's do. I think we did the hobby horse.
You had enough of hobby horse? I could hobby horse all day.
I could hobby horse all day, but I feel like, it's not really...
Go on then, do hobby horse.
I'll go on then.
There'll be new viewers.
Let's indulge. It's your day, Paul. You choose whatever you want.
We should mention Oscar Piastri won for McLaren. So McLaren looking very good in the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But enough of the F1. Let's look at the future of sport, which is hobby horsing. Here we go. Hobby horsing. It's the German Hobby Horse Championships. There's dressage, there's time and style jumping, there's racing. Look at that. What lovely knee work there. The fetlocks were being... Look, I mean, really? And the judges, and everybody takes it very seriously. There was Nelly Nurbus, who is a German hobby horser. She says that hobby horsing has become much bigger in recent years and is now being taken more seriously, but we're still a long way from it being accepted as football or something like that. The phrase "no" springs to mind, but there we are, there's the race. I know they look like kids, but there are adults that take part in this.
Only women, I've noticed. Whereas dressage and actual horse jumping involves men and women normally. But
of course it does, but that's a female horse. Oh no, that's a male horse, I believe. There's the male hobby horse. Yeah, well, you can tell if you look very closely, you can tell by the ears. So there we are. Now, what's going on here? This is going to be it now. This is a very difficult double jump. We just missed the double jump there, but hobby horsing. Very big in Finland, you know. It's Finland where it started.
I don't know.
Was it April the 1st?
No, this is
legit.
Serious, legit.
Oh, well, there's hope for us all. We could all win.
On the
all right. Thanks very much, Paul. Appreciate it.
Still to come, Chris Akabusi and Dawn Neeson will be here to go through all of the day's top stories in the papers. Back in a sec.
Tune in to Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan.
GB News royalty with
your perfect start to the weekend.
Lucky us.
Feisty and fearless guests.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
Honest opinions.
That raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return.
And a few surprises along the way.
Might be cold in this studio.
That is Friday Night Live with me, Mark Dolan. 8 to 9, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nana Queer, weekends from 3 p.m.
Angela, what have we got?
Hello, there's an awful lot, but I think the main interesting thing is that Prince Harry said a week or so, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, that he absolutely wasn't going to go to his uncle's funeral because there wasn't enough protection for him. His uncle, Lord Fellows, was married to Jane Spencer, who was Diana's sister, who was the most practical and helpful of the three children, the three girls, and she's done an awful lot for Harry. I thought it was just terrible. He wasn't going to go there, but he has been there. They didn't talk to William. William didn't talk to him. Did he get any protection? Who knows? And if he didn't, if he takes the government to court yet again, they would say, well, look, we managed without that, but we don't know about that. But also the paper, the magazine that does loads for Harry and Meghan, they were the ones who said he wasn't going, so they said what he wanted them to say.
He doesn't need any protection. I mean, how did he get there? Probably in a Bombardier private jet that gives off 60 times more carbon than anybody else.
Yes, well, we don't know about that. The good thing was that he was there, and of course today is Remembrance Day for Diana, the day she died. So that he went there and he was with her side of the family, and I think that that's very good and might help him feel a bit better about things.
But neither of them are doing well out of it. William is not doing well out of it. Harry is not doing well out of it. The King is not doing well out of it. Meghan Markle's not doing well out of it. Why can't they just...
No, I don't think it's that easy. I think that they might do much worse if they were together again.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it? Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained. I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
We're going through the papers this morning with Dawn Neeson and Chris Akabusi, and we're going to start with, this is in the Telegraph, Chris, and this was sort of released, you know, pretty under the radar yesterday, the royal family issuing a happy birthday to Prince Harry, and actually this feels like a really conciliatory gesture from them, given all that's happened. Could this be the beginning of a... you know, olive branch being sent out?
I love this. I mean,
so do I.
I don't normally like talking about Prince Harry because people just like to lambast him and his family, but I love this from Prince William. Prince William being the sort of bigger man. The article says basically that, you know, birthdays, big birthdays, often make big events, and it seems that the Prince of Wales has been thinking about his brother, and it's a small gesture. It's quite terse, but it's to the point. Happy birthday emoji, a lovely picture of Harry.
Gorgeous picture, yeah, happy
smiling.
And relaxed.
Actually, we'll look at it again. I remember when I was 40, I thought I was old. You see how young you really are when you're 40. And I think, you know, it's just a little thought. We can't get overexcited. If you use the analogy of autumn, spring, winter, it's winter and a slight thaw. It harbingers. There might be green shoots down the road, but we've still a long way to go and a lot to go on. But yeah, I like this. It is in most of the papers, and good on you. Also, there was a little piece there about Dad, and Dad being, you know, obviously the king, but Dad being really keen to develop a relationship with his son, and also the health scare that the king has had. And maybe somewhere the boys, and this is all public, we don't know what goes on in private, maybe somewhere the boys realise, you know what, when I say the old man, I know the king, but, you know, there's the old man here.
That will have made the king happy, seeing his son post that. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Dawn, the Daily Mail, what's their take on all of this? Because they're saying, look who's not in this picture.
That lovely big smile.
OK, that's me gone.
Sorry, moving on.
Of Harry, but the person that's been cropped out of it is his wife, Meghan. Now
it's not her birthday.
Well done.
She's sitting next to him. Now, look, I don't know who cropped Meghan out of the picture. It might have been the original photographer who cropped it.
So she was in the original?
Yes. She was in the original picture. If I can hold it
there we
there.
go. Well, I think you're right, Izzy. It's not her birthday, is it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you, Ben.
I'm slightly more cynical about this. I mean, you know, this is the first time in 3 years that the royal social media accounts have wished Harry a happy birthday. And it is his 40th birthday, so it's a special birthday. I think they were damned if they did and damned if they didn't. I think the wording and the lack of any personal touch whatsoever makes it very, very much it's come from someone just operating the social media account because they've got to do it. I don't think William probably knows anything about it.
Maybe. I'm sure he's given the OK for it because he certainly would stop it if he wasn't happy.
Well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think it would be good if they did get back together. Certainly, as you say, because King Charles is poorly. But I'm very cynical about how this is handled.
Speaking of the Mail, did any of you read the serialisation of James Middleton, an extract from his book that was out in the Mail on Sunday yesterday? I thought that was interesting because obviously what Harry did was lift the lid on behind closed doors. James Middleton's done the same. Interesting insights on what goes on in the Middleton household, on the relationship between William and Kate. Obviously loyal to them, but still more detail than we've ever probably got from anywhere else. And I was absolutely gripped reading it. It was all the stuff about how William, despite being highly competitive, doesn't like the Middletons' card games because they're so ruthless, and how he automatically excuses himself.
It was very, very, again, being a tabloid journalist, I'm incredibly cynical about all of this stuff. I mean, nothing is done without a reason. I just think it was trying to portray the Middleton family, who don't always get the best of press, in a warm, they're just an ordinary family.
And that they were featured, of course, in Kate's video, comeback video, weren't they?
Yeah,
which we didn't expect.
Much hated cards. But I just, as I said, I'm very cynical about that. I hope it has a happy ending, but I'm not holding my breath.
William is a lot more generous than I'd be. I'd give him that.
Really?
I mean, if my brother treated me like that, went on national TV, called the family racist, and also, everything. The stuff Harry wrote in Spare about William's balding hairline, losing the looks of his mother, good grief.
But you can also see, I think, that Harry is struggling. And I think as a brother, they went through a shared trauma together.
Yeah.
Their mother has left William as the older brother. Is it partly his role as big brother to look out for his little brother?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. You're the big brother. You need to put the big boy's pants on. And
he's done that, arguably.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and Diana would love that.
100%, absolutely.
I think. OK, let's turn our attention to Starmer, shall we? And this is an interesting story. In the Express, they're saying that actually this is targeting disabled, and it will leave the disabled in the cold this winter.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so 2/3 of the people in this category are going to be disabled people. 83% of Octavians, 80 people who are over 80 and above, are going to be affected by the situation that's actually come into effect today. And I think when you just sort of juxtapose this with Keir Starmer and his wife not being able to afford to have their pay for their own clothes.
The multi-millionaire Keir Starmer.
Yeah, you know...
afford to buy his wife a frock.
Absolutely, whose father was a toolmaker, by the way, just in case you've forgotten about that one. It's just disgraceful. And the Labour government said when they did this that they hadn't had any impact assessment on the very cohort of people is going to grossly affect. And then they went on to say that what they were trying to do was to encourage this cohort of people to go and claim benefits they're not claiming. So it's actually a social engineering mechanism, aka coercement. So you've got to start asking yourself, is the Labour government a coercive, abusive parent by what they're doing on things like this? Asking older people to go into the digital sphere, which are not competent and confident with anyway.
To live with it. I tried.
You said it was 245 pages or something, and your mum was just totally overwhelmed.
And then she had to scan the code and everything. It's like, we just gave up.
But meanwhile, Rachel Reeves, the Chancellor, is claiming back fuel allowance, which she's entitled to do under the rules of being an MP. But at the same time, she's taking away.
Was it £4,000? Is it?
I've got
£3,700 or something. But the optics are just not great. Are they?
It's awful. Granny can't take her 300 quid, but you can get your £4,000. It's awful.
Yeah, I know. And this is the Labour Party.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? What happened to looking after the poor and the working class, and they just don't seem to be doing any of that.
So who does look after the poor and the working class?
Well, it's argued, Chris, that Labour don't really care about pensioners because they're not Labour voters. They're all Tory voters.
And you know what? Then they can't go on strike either.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Ooh, that's cynical.
Oh, dear. Well, we would love to have Labour come on and talk to us and perhaps defend themselves. Yvette Cooper's been doing round this morning. Always welcome to come on our programme anytime she should so wish to do.
Credit to Wes Streeting, actually. He's done our channel a couple of times in recent weeks. Rachel Reeves sat down with Chopper as well.
We have had Yvette Cooper on in the past, but not recently. We'd love her to come on.
The husband, though, occasionally.
Yeah, she doesn't mind being challenged by her husband on ITV, but, you know, far be it from us to question Ofcom on that one. Right, we have to say goodbye. Thanks very much to you both. I appreciated your take on the papers. That's it for the papers for this morning. We now have Honor Krezik with her take on the forecast. Here you go.
Looks like things are heating up. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got high pressure building this week and that means plenty of fine and dry weather and plenty of that warm autumnal sunshine too. It will be quite a foggy start though, particularly in northwestern parts of England and Wales, so do take care for the Monday morning commute. But that fog will eventually lift and break through the course of the morning. And as high pressure builds, that leaves plenty of dry and fine weather around and feeling quite warm where you do catch the sunshine. There will be a build of higher cloud into the northwest through the course of the day, and perhaps some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just clipping the Outer Hebrides. But otherwise, plenty of fine and dry weather and some late evening sunshine to end the day too. Now, as we progress into Monday evening, that high cloud in the northwest will push in more and more into western parts of Scotland, and we'll start to see a few more of those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the west too. But elsewhere, it is going to remain dry, that high cloud pushing into Northern Ireland, but across northern England, Wales and parts of the south, plenty of clear skies. But that does mean it is going to be turning chilly as soon as the sun goes down, and we're likely to see further patches of mist and fog overnight too. That high cloud will continue to build into the northwest through the course of the night. We can see that rain and drizzle pushing into the Northern Isles, perhaps a little bit heavy at times, and we'll see a strengthening breeze in the northwest too. But elsewhere, where we see those lighter winds, those cooler skies, that is where things are going to be turning cold, and we're likely to see that mist and fog develop in those rural spots. So once again, there may be some mist and fog to start the day on Tuesday, but as the day warms up, it'll lift and break, and we've still got high pressure dominating, which means plenty of those sunny spells. We do still have that high cloud continuing in the north, and this may be thick enough to produce some rain and drizzle at times, but away from these areas, once again, feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. Bye for now.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
the latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Belfast, the A12 West Link is partly blocked southbound by an accident between Grosvenor Road and the M1 with queues from the M2. Long delays on other nearby roads where you were diverting when the road was closed earlier. In North Yorkshire, the A63 is closed northbound at Ledsham after an accident causing queues. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there's a lane closed on the southbound entry slip road at junction 33 near Rotherham where someone's broken down. Queues from junction 34. In Lincolnshire, the A15 is closed each way at the Ashby-Dillon Lawns turn between Sleaford and Lincoln after an accident. The M1 in Bedfordshire is closed northbound from junction 12. The Toddington and Flitwick turn to 13 at Bedford after an accident with long delays each way towards there and as you divert. And the A1M in Hertfordshire is closed in both directions between junction 7 and 8 near Stevenage after an accident. There are queues from junction 6 at Welling and from junction 10 at Baldock. That's the latest.
You can stay up to date throughout the day by visiting our website, gbnews.com.
This is your channel. I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/your say. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good morning to you. Hope you're well. A second assassination attempt on Donald Trump.
Yes, the former president was playing golf near his Florida residence when the Secret Service spotted the gunman hiding in the bushes.
A 58-year-old man has been taken into custody.
Meanwhile, Starmer says he's interested in Italy's migration deal with Albania as he prepares to meet Giorgia Meloni in Rome.
And to the Tory leadership race, Robert Jenrick says we need to slash more than 100,000 civil service jobs to achieve a small state that works.
Former BBC newsreader Hugh Edwards is set to be sentenced today at Westminster Magistrates Court. We're expecting him to arrive any minute now. He pled guilty, of course, to making indecent images of children. We'll have live coverage of that for you.
And sales of electric blankets soar. That's as pensioners face a freezing winter without their fuel allowance. Retailer John Lewis has seen an increase in sales by 173%.
Hello, good morning. Well, after a chilly start, there's going to be plenty of dry and fine weather around. There will be some fog in places, though, for the Monday morning commute, so join me later for all the details.
My name's Isabel Webster. This is 9 o'clock on GB News Breakfast.
I'm Ben Leo, and this is GB News Breakfast. OK, we're joined now by the Shadow Minister of State for Crime, Policing and Fire, Matt Vickers. Good morning, Matt. Thanks for joining us. I've said it to a couple of your colleagues in recent weeks, Matt, that some people, some Tory members perhaps, are arguing that the Tories are as, the word is useless in opposition as they were in government, because the Labour Party seem to be doing so many things right now that they accused you guys of during your time in power. And the hypocrisy is staggering, not least recently the winter fuel payments, the money from donors for dressing the Prime Minister's wife, and now Sir Keir Starmer in Rome, pretty much, as we understand, mimicking a right-wing policy of sending migrants to offshore processing sites. Where are the Tories in their opposition of this government?
I think we're here. We're waiting for you people to listen to us. I think, actually, when you look at it, we're in opposition. We're going through a leadership election, and we're here. We're making the noises, but we've got to get the country to listen to us again. We're not the people that people want to listen to at the moment, but actually we're making the case. And when it comes to, you can't contrast the donor scandals that are going on with the Labour Party at the moment with anything that's gone before it. We've never seen donors to a political party given jobs on the scale that we've seen in the last few weeks. We've never seen the glasses for passes scandal, where a guy who buys some very swanky glasses for the Prime Minister can stroll into Downing Street with his pass and have a waddle round. We've never seen, question marks about somebody buying the Prime Minister's wife's clothes. All of these things aren't just people getting donations. They're actually people giving people favours in return for donations. And the place in which it's most abhorrent, the place in which it stinks the most, is when it comes to the unions. We've seen in this country pensioners on £13,000 having their winter fuel allowance dragged from their hands at the same time as train drivers on £65,000 getting a pay rise of almost £10,000. That is donors, that is the unions coughing in and taking their pound in flesh in return. It stinks, it's awful. And if anybody had any doubts about what Labour were going to do to this country, they've seen it in the last few weeks.
Seen Starmer's personal popularity ratings plummet in recent days. He was booed over the weekend by members of the public. That being said, this issue around donations for clothes, is there an argument? I mean, we've talked about it in the past about what the Prime Minister earns in this country. Yes, a six-figure salary, but the equivalent role in a private organisation would be far, far higher. Should we be paying the top job in the land a better salary? And should there be some sort of budget for people? Because they have to attend state banquets with royalty, with heads of state from around the world. They're representing UK PLC on an international stage. It's fair enough that they look smart, and it would take away any of these issues where people feel that they may or may not be able to get access for favours.
We heard this from David Lammy yesterday, didn't we? We heard that the multi-millionaire Prime Minister needs some help to buy his wife's clothes at the same time as that Prime Minister is dragging away a winter fuel allowance from pensioners on £13,000. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. The people who elect that Prime Minister, who elect me, who elect the government out there on the streets would love to have a £2,000 pair of glasses, would love to have someone paying for their wife's clothes. It's wrong. It's not acceptable. The last person who paid for my clothes was my parents, and they had quite a lot of influence over me at the time. It's not right that we allow people. It's not just the contribution, it's not just the gift, it's not the donation, it's the fact that something is expected in return. In this case, the chap who bought these dresses got free access to the highest office in the land. He strolled in and out of number 10. That is not acceptable.
Some people would say, though, Matt, that Boris Johnson did something similar with the wallpaper fiasco in Downing Street. A donor, of course, paid thousands of pounds for that.
I don't think it compares. I don't think it compares to a guy who was already a peer getting free access to number 10 in exchange for some glasses and clothes. I just don't think the two donations, gifts will always happen. They should be declared properly. I think there's question marks about how these clothes were declared. They will happen. They're part of the game. But actually, it's what you give people in return. Whether that's all these unions getting huge pay rises, inflation-busting pay rises for public sector workers, or whether it be the access, the jobs that were given to donors as civil servants. It's just not acceptable. It completely stinks, particularly when people out there are facing challenges with the cost of living and having their winter fuel, their grannies losing their winter fuel allowance and they're dishing out jobs.
Matt Vickers, can we talk about illegal migration? We had 801 making that crossing, perilous crossing, on Saturday, the highest since Labour's come into power. Of course, 8 people also died over the weekend. A number of those were in hospital, including a 10-month-old baby still being treated for hypothermia. We've got the Prime Minister today meeting Giorgia Meloni in Italy. Actually, we're going to break away very quickly, if that's OK. We've got live pictures coming to us from Westminster Magistrates Court. This is Hugh Edwards appearing to be sentenced after pleading guilty for making indecent images of children. That's just the back of him there, walking into the magistrates. There we go.
Oh, there we go. No sunglasses, as you queried earlier. So he's due, I think Mark White earlier this morning said that he would be due a sentence possibly of up to only 6 months, as far as I remember. That's if he does get a custodial sentence.
Yeah, he'll be sentenced around 10 o'clock, we think, this morning. Obviously, one of the other big issues around Hugh Edwards is the fact that there was no morality clause in his contract. And we're told by the BBC that there is no way they can take away his 300 grand a year pension. Should there be a workaround? Should there perhaps be some intervention from the government on this? Let us know what you think, gbnews.com/you'll say. But sorry about that, Matt Vickers. We had to just break away.
Has Matt gone?
I'm hoping he's still standing by.
Oh, he's still there, Matt?
Do you want to give us any thoughts on Hugh Edwards while we've got you?
Well, it's appalling, isn't it? You know, these people they sit on the television, they're part of the nation. You know, we've grown up watching them on the television, and then you find out that they're these rotten, awful people, and it's devastating, sad and awful. And I think, you know, when we look at the clauses that would prevent him getting this huge pension, we've got to look at what goes on there. We've got to look at those morality clauses. I don't think you can really legislate for awful, heinous people like that and the things that they're doing.
Well, you know, your portfolio is deals with crime. There's been lots of talk about the sort of penalties that have been given to people involved in the riots, specifically in relation to tweets, some of them significant custodial sentences. When you compare that with a possible 6 months for Hugh Edwards, you know, what's your view on some of the sort of indiscrepancies that we see in sentencing?
Yeah, some of it is sickening. Do you know, the last government brought in tougher sentences for sexual and violent offenders and made some of those toughest crimes, you know, had much tougher sentences. But in real terms, yeah, when you see some of the examples of things that people get into trouble for tweeting, it's very odd. But at the same time, social media does play a role in crime, and where those social media operators and platforms are responsible for allowing and enabling crime, then there should be real consequences. But I think we need to have a balance between freedom of speech and crime online.
Yeah. OK, Matt Vickers, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Shadow Minister of State for Crime, of course. Yeah, that 300k a year pension is just...
There must be a way of being able to claw that back. I mean, that's just doing untold damage to the BBC's reputation, because that is licence fee payers' cash. Yeah. Right, let's turn our attention to Donald Trump. He has been the victim of another assassination attempt yesterday evening. He was playing golf on his course in Florida when the FBI and the Secret Service were able to apprehend a 58-year-old who was found hiding in the bushes there. Let's talk to Greg Swenson. He's the head of the Republicans overseas.
Greg, this is the second assassination attempt in a matter of months on Donald Trump. I want to know, is he going to now hide away in his basement until November? Or is he, I mean, because lots of people are saying, not least us this morning, you know, is it going to be the third time your luck's out? Because, you know, his life is... again, inches away from being snuffed out.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a dangerous position, that's obvious. And there's clear breakdowns in the Secret Service coverage of President Trump that this gunman should never have gotten near him. The fact that he was able to get away in a car is pretty outrageous. So, but I don't think the president will stop campaigning. The basement model worked for Joe Biden in 2020 because he had an excuse. He used COVID as the excuse, but he clearly had campaigning skill problems. And so he hung in the basement for good reason. Well, Trump will not.
Politically, sorry to interject, politically, I mean, safety aside and not getting killed, politically, wouldn't it be a good idea maybe for Trump to keep stum on the attacks? I mean, he was tweeting about hating Taylor Swift yesterday. Can he not use this as a second opportunity to kind of play the unifying president and bringing people together and just, I guess, keep your mouth shut?
I think it would be a great opportunity to do that. He did it quite effectively after the first
for 24 hours.
And it didn't last very long, right? And I think, you know, both sides, you know, we're back at it within a few days. And I think once President Biden was kicked to the side of the road, it opened up the floodgates again. And it was only a week later, remember. So the assassination attempt was on a Saturday, and then the following Sunday, 8 days later, was when Biden left. So, look, I don't think it will change the president's schedule. He did dial it down a bit after the first one. He's doing fewer rallies. He's doing more of the town hall kind of more intimate gatherings, which are safer. But I don't think it will stop him from campaigning.
He's bound to have been rattled on a personal level. I mean, he was inches from death, physically scarred by, you know, a wound. That's, you know, even the toughest of soldiers will tell you that that will have an impact on you personally.
Yeah, I think any incident like that, I think the one in July was much more dramatic than yesterday. So it's good that he wasn't really in potential danger. But, you know, it's just another sign that the Secret Service has to tighten it up.
Greg, I know you run in Republican circles, of course, Republicans overseas spokesman. Have you spoken or heard from anyone in Trump's camp, Eric Trump maybe, or Don Jr.?
I didn't speak to anybody in the family. I spoke to a very senior person in the campaign, head of the Finance Committee last night, and, you know, just a few hours after the incident. So he was very confident that the president will handle this properly. And you saw a social media post by the president last night that just to reassure everyone that he's okay.
Can we talk about guns?
Yeah.
I mean, I find this incredible. The AK-47 that was found on this guy, Ryan Ruth, had the capacity to fire 600 rounds in 1 minute. That's 10 per second.
Right.
This is the sort of weaponry you see in theatres of war.
Right.
But you also see regularly all over the United States. Now, I know we have a knife epidemic here in the United Kingdom, but just explain to us Brits why Americans are not able to get a grip of this man-made crisis.
Yeah, I mean, it's true it's a man-made crisis because we have a crime problem, we have a violence problem, but it's not the guns that are doing the crimes. That assault rifles, or ARs, however you define it, are less than 1% of gun crime. And so that's important to keep in mind. Rifles in general are less than 5%. It's handguns that are often the problem. But even if you look at the bigger picture, 92% of violent crime in the U.S., where we have plenty of guns and it's part of the culture, 92% are not gun-related. It's other types of violent crime. And even here in the UK, when they banned guns in 1997, homicide rates went up 14% over the next 8 years.
As in pistols?
Sorry?
We didn't ban guns, did we, in the United Kingdom?
Well,
as in pistols?
Yeah, you can still have sporting guns, of course, and
I see what you mean.
But you know, the violent crime rate went up. Homicide rates went up after the gun ban. Only when they increased policing by 14% 8 years later did homicide rates come back to the same level. Same thing happened in Jamaica and Ireland when they banned guns.
Yeah, and arguably now there are so many guns in America, maybe 4 or 5 per American, that this is the argument, it's safer now to be armed because studies show that mass shootings are less likely to happen in areas where there's high populations of people carrying guns.
You don't want it to be where only the bad guys have guns.
Yeah.
And so, homicide rates are up 7% from 2019. That's not because of gun laws. It's not like they repealed some gun laws and homicides went up. It's defunding the police. It's not prosecuting criminals. It's the Soros-backed DAs. That's the problem. It's not enforcing the laws.
What it is baffling. Greg Swenson, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Time now for the Great British Giveaway. £36,000 in tax-free cash. That's about, what, £3 a month?
Yep, so here's how it could be yours.
And good luck.
Very good luck to you. What would you do with 36 grand, Isabel?
I don't know, actually. A lot of cats, maybe. I just fill my house with cats.
You were just showing me your beautiful pictures of your boys at Hector.
Yeah, Hector. We got him a year ago yesterday. Untold joy that cat has brought into our house. What would you do with 36 grand?
I'd probably, you've inspired me. I'd get a cat.
I need to give your wife a little hint that...
Tell her.
Yeah, cats are life-changing. My husband didn't want one. Now they're inseparable. They're like that. It's the best thing you'll ever do, and lovely for the children as well.
I grew up with 2 cats. They were my best friends. The boys and I really want to get one, but my wife is more of a dog lady, and she just won't have it. She doesn't trust them.
No. Well, anyway, let us know what you would do with the cash if you were lucky enough to win it. But as we keep on saying, you won't win unless you have entered the draw. Anyway, lots more for you coming up. We've got about 10 minutes more of the show. We'll have the latest on the Hugh Edwards sentencing, and we'll also be catching up with Bev and Andrew. See you in a mo.
Welcome to State of the Nation, daily plunge into the stories shaping our country. I'm Jacob Rees-Mogg, and Monday to Thursday we bring you the insights, the facts, the truth about how our country is being governed. Because what happens in Downing Street matters down your street. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
When I knew that I was doing this segment this week, I feel like this week was a real homework task for me because I'll be honest, I haven't been around Scottish food much in my life, but I obviously know all the obvious. And I thought I'd bring in a selection of some of, I guess, the sort of the quintessential culinary delights of the North. I mean, we have in front of us haggis.
I think we should begin with some haggis.
So, Michael, I've never eaten haggis before. This is going to be the first time.
Well, have you eaten anything like haggis before. Have you eaten anything that is made from the intestines of an animal?
I mean, I've had things like chopped liver and, you know, a bit of offal here and there.
Well, there we are. I mean, I got a great surprise. I was holding when I was in government, I was holding a great party in Scotland, and I had a lot of Spanish visitors, and I was offering them haggis, and I thought that they would be astonished by haggis and maybe repelled. But when they ate it, they said, "Oh, no, this is morcilla." So, you know, there is an equivalent in Spain.
Absolutely.
So if I recall, and you've probably been mugging it up, which I have not, but haggis is made within the stomach of a sheep.
Yes.
And you take the heart and the lungs and some other part of the sheep and you mash it up.
With onions, oatmeal, suet.
Yes.
And it's stuffed into the sheep's stomach. But a lot of the haggis you get these days, especially sort of the slightly cheaper varieties in supermarkets, is usually an artificial casing.
Oh.
You know what? This is actually quite nice.
I think it's absolutely heavenly. And
It's very savoury.
To me, it's two things. Yes, to me, it's two things. It's both the taste and the texture. You quite rightly refer to the oatmeal going in there. So it's got this crunchy, granular sort of texture. Marvellous.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. We're talking about Hugh Edwards now. He's just arrived at Westminster Magistrates Court this morning. He will be sentenced at 10 o'clock this morning after pleading guilty earlier on in the summer for making indecent images of children.
Yeah, the former BBC man has admitted to 3 charges over the activity between December 2020 and April 2022.
I'm just looking at the Sun newspaper this morning. They've actually been leading very much the way with this story, and inside they have a letter addressed to Hugh Edwards, basically talking about all the pain inflicted on one of his victims' families, and it's incredibly powerful words. She says, the mother, who knows what eternal damage you and your paedophile friends have done. You've wrecked your relationship with your own family, betrayed BBC and colleagues you work for. That you've lost everything is no consolation to us.
I must say, the Sun have done, I'm not just saying it because I used to work there, they've done such a good job with this whole sorry saga, because at the start they were getting legal letters from Hugh Edwards, stick from online from commentators saying, you know, this is just a man who wanted to enjoy his private life, who cares if, you know, what he gets up to in private. In actual fact, the Sun stood steady and firm, and we are where we are now. Hugh Edwards arriving at Westminster Magistrates Court a matter of minutes ago to hear his sentence. Mark White, our Home and Security Editor, is there now. Mark, what's the latest, please?
Well, Hugh Edwards came about half an hour earlier than we were expecting him. The last time he came to Westminster Magistrates Court, it was the bold and the defiant Hugh Edwards who decided to walk into court and came from around the corner so everybody could get their shots of him wearing sunglasses on that occasion. This time it was a taxi that pulled up right at the door, and it was just a short walk for him to get into the Magistrates Court. But still to greet him were protesters, including these protesters behind me from a Christian anti-paedophile group, there to voice their message to Hugh Edwards as he arrived here for sentencing. Now, in terms of the sentence that might be handed down, I think the feeling is from all of the legal experts that many in the media have been speaking to that it is unlikely that he will be handed a jail term because he is a first-time offender, according to his lawyer, someone of previously good character. And, of course, he pleaded guilty at the earliest opportunity on his first appearance here at Westminster Magistrates Court in July. Nonetheless, very serious charges that he has pleaded guilty to. He received almost 400 sexually explicit images, including 41 of children under the age of 15. 7 were of the most serious category A, which showed people or children, as I say, of quite a young age, 2 relating to a child believed to be aged between 7 and 9 years old. He'll be sentenced in the next half an hour.
OK, Mark White, outside Westminster Magistrates Court, thanks very much. Stay tuned to GB News. On Britain's Newsroom in a few minutes, they'll have the latest from that sentencing. And we segue nicely into that. Andrew Pearce and Bev Turner are here to explain what else is on the show. Good morning to you both.
Good morning. We're going to be talking about the Home Secretary. Do you remember Rwanda? They cancelled it on day 1. And now are they contemplating the government processing migrant applications in Albania?
Why not just do that in Rwanda?
Well, all the money had been spent already,
I know,
so they
we've
could,
got
I think they had a moral duty to give it a try, but they couldn't and wouldn't because they said it was a Tory gimmick.
But it sounds like David Lammy might have really messed up by suggesting that we're going to take the Albanian system, using the processing over there. But I think Yvette Cooper's been talking this morning, and
she was a bit lukewarm on it.
Yes. So it might be that he has suggested
overstepped the mark.
Overstepped the mark. Over-egged the pudding.
If we were having a bet on who will be the first cabinet minister to be moved or sacked, it's him.
Who would replace him?
Yeah, that's a very good point, because he's not. I don't think he's up to it.
Yeah, interesting. What else? Because we've got Hugh Edwards just arriving in court this morning. That's going to be fireworks.
And Trump, of course.
Yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. But Trump, and on Hugh Edwards, I suspect there won't be a custodial sentence because the
prisons are full.
Yeah, and also the guy who supplied him the photographs didn't get a prison sentence, which he should have.
Well, you should have the sentence live on your show in just a few minutes. Thank you both. Thank you at home for watching us this morning. Hope you've enjoyed yourselves. We're back tomorrow from 6.
Yeah, but in the meantime, here's your forecast. We've got Honor for you with all the details.
A brighter outlook with Box Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your GB News weather update brought to you by the Met Office. Well, we've got high pressure building this week and that means plenty of fine and dry weather and plenty of that warm autumnal sunshine too. It will be quite a foggy start though, particularly in northwestern parts of England and Wales, so do take care for the Monday morning commute. But that fog will eventually lift and break through the course of the morning. And as high pressure builds, that leaves plenty of dry and fine weather around and feeling quite warm where you do catch the sunshine. There will be a build of higher cloud into the northwest through the course of the day, and perhaps some outbreaks of rain and drizzle just clipping the Outer Hebrides. But otherwise, plenty of fine and dry weather and some late evening sunshine to end the day too. Now, as we progress into Monday evening, that high cloud in the northwest will push in more and more into western parts of Scotland, and we'll start to see a few more of those outbreaks of rain and drizzle in the west too. But elsewhere, it is going to remain dry, that high cloud pushing into Northern Ireland, but across northern England, Wales and parts of the south, plenty of clear skies. But that does mean it is going to be turning chilly as soon as the sun goes down, and we're likely to see further patches of mist and fog overnight too. That high cloud will continue to build into the northwest through the course of the night. We can see that rain and drizzle pushing into the Northern Isles, perhaps a little bit heavy at times, and we'll see a strengthening breeze in the northwest too. But elsewhere, where we see those lighter winds, those cooler skies, that is where things are going to be turning cold, and we're likely to see that mist and fog develop in those rural spots. So once again, there may be some mist and fog to start the day on Tuesday, but as the day warms up, it'll lift and break, and we've still got high pressure dominating, which means plenty of those sunny spells. We do still have that high cloud continuing in the north, and this may be thick enough to produce some rain and drizzle at times, but away from these areas, once again, feeling warm where you catch the sunshine. Bye for now.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
The latest GB News travel.
Good morning, I'm Russell Holding. In Belfast on the A12 West Link, there's a lane closed southbound after an accident between Grosvenor Road and the M1 with queues from the M2. On the M1 in South Yorkshire, there's a lane closed on the southbound entry slip road at junction